The rain falls soft and steady over Riverrun, a hush across the black waters of the Tumblestone, as though the gods themselves lean in to hear the whispers of treason that coil through the night. Torches gutter on the battlements, hard orange halos stuttering against stone slick with moss. Below, in the belly of the castle's east tower, Jaime Lannister lies shackled to a damp wall, awake but pretending not to be. He listens to the drip, 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 a slow counting of hours that have lost all meaning since his capture, and thinks of the boy he pushed from a tower window and the war that bloomed like bloody roses in its wake. Footsteps approach, light, measured, carrying none of the casual swagger of a guard. Jaime keeps his eyes half-lidded, the picture of negligent arrogance. It costs him effort now. His beard is wild, his hair matted, and filth creeps up under his nails. Even so, he imagines he could summon that old Kingslayer smile if pressed. He never liked to show weakness. Certainly not to Starks and never to the gods. The door grinds open, a silhouette framed in torch glow. Catelyn Stark, her grief a cloak heavier than any chain mail. She closes the door behind her and stands as though bracing against a wind only she can feel. Jaime inhales, catching the faint scent of rainwater and wolf, then speaks, low and drawling. "Lady Stark, come to pour a little more shame on my head?" The clank of his chains accentuates the words. "I would bow, but..." He shrugs against the iron bite. "Circumstances." She steps closer, the torch in her hand casting shadows across her cheeks. They make her look older, colder, carved of winter stone. Yet he sees something else too. A decision, sharp and terrible, flickering in her blue-gray eyes. "My sons are dead," she says. Her voice is pitched barely above a whisper, but it scours him more cruelly than any shout. "Bran and Rickon, murdered for the crown you serve." Jaime tilts his head. "I serve no crown at the moment." He rattles his chains for proof. "Though if you mean Joffrey, the boy is hardly mine to leash. He's worse than Aerys ever was." A shadow crosses her gaze at the name. Aerys, the Mad King, her husband's sworn liege, once. "Be that as it may," she answers. "The realm bleeds for Lannister pride, for a boy king's whims and a queen's vengeance." Silence folds between them like wings. Jaime hears the thunder outside, soft and distant, the storm's heart moving downriver. She sets the torch in a bracket and pulls something from beneath her cloak. A crude iron key. Jaime's breath catches. He schools his face to nonchalance, but the rush of possibilities tugs at his pulse. Freedom, or some darker game? Catelyn bends to the manacles. The key scrapes once, twice. Then the left shackle falls away, the sudden lack of weight making his wrist float. She frees the right wrist next. Jaime flexes aching fingers, blood pricking with pins of lightning. "I thought you'd prefer gold," he says. "Iron seems so northern. Do not mistake mercy for fondness." Catelyn stands, pocketing the key. "I release you for one reason only. Your life for my daughters. Sansa is still a hostage in King's Landing. Arya, the gods know where. You will deliver a message to your sister. Return my girls unharmed and whole, or you will answer for every debt Lannisters have incurred." Jaime rubs his raw wrists. "Sweet lady, I'd as soon juggle wildfire as trust Cersei with promises. She'll not trade coin for wolves." Catelyn's eyes narrow. "Then barter with Joffrey's blood." Something old and dangerous stirs in his chest. "You want me to kill my own nephew?" She does not flinch. "He butchered Ned on the steps of Baelor September. He let Sansa watch. If you cannot secure the exchange, spill his vicious little heart and send me proof." The thought hangs there, obscene and shimmering. "You hate me that much?" Jaime asks, voice quiet. "It is not hate." She presses a hand to her breast as though steadying a fracture in bone. "It is duty. My daughters' lives, my son's crown, and perhaps," she adds softer still, "a drop of justice in a land run dry." Jaime considers justice a fool's candle. It burns bright and small, then gutters in the wind of larger men's desires. Yet he cannot deny the thrill that coils through him. Kill Joffrey? There is pleasure in the notion. The boy wears the title of king, but all Jaime can see is that sneering mouth spouting cruelty like spittle. To rid the realm of such misrule. There is honor in that, twisted perhaps, but real. Outside the cell, Robb Stark waits with gray wind at his heel. The direwolf's eyes gleam like two shards of cold moon. Robb's gaze is harder still. He studies Jaime not as a hero studies a villain, but as a battlefield commander weighs uncertain weapons, calculated, remote. Remove his chains, are you forged or not? Robb says to his guard. They hesitate, he repeats the order. He rides tonight. We risk too much already. Jaime lifts his pinioned arms, blood returning in hot floods. He notes the young wolf's tone. Weary, resolved. War has aged Robb faster than the seasons. Tell me, Kingslayer, Robb says. What oaths mean to a Lannister? Jaime laughs, tasting iron on his tongue. Oaths are wind, Stark. What matters is which way we blow them. Robb's jaw sets, but he nods once. Blow this one true. Bring my sisters home. Kill the boy king if need be. Betray me, and the whole North will hunt you to the ends of the earth. Jaime swallows. Understood. They dress him in rough spun and a plain cloak the color of mud. A horse awaits saddled but restless outside the gate. Rain beads on the animal's dark flank. Steam rises from its nostrils. Jaime mounts with a wince. The saddle bites sore flesh unaccustomed to movement after so many fettered days. Catelyn steps forward. If you fail them, remember my face in the dark. He bows from the saddle, mocking yet strangely sincere. Lady Stark, I could never forget a woman who hands me a dagger with edges on every side. Gray wind paces, watchful. The gate rattles open, and Jaime urges the horse into motion. He rides out into rain and freedom and fear, the cold riverland's night swallowing him whole. The King's Road is a vein of mud and memories. Jaime rides under cloud-shrouded moon, above the sighing of wind in skeletal trees stripped bare by autumn's first hard frost. Each hoofbeat drums a mantra in his mind. Joffrey, Joffrey, Joffrey. He pictures the boy's face. Petulant, pale, eyes too bright with cruelty, and the division between uncle and assassin blurs. Midway through the second night, he finds a deserted roadside September candles lie shattered on the floor, pews hacked apart for kindling. Looters passed recently. Jaime prizes open the altar's lid, not for theft, but curiosity, and finds an iron dagger caked in dust. He cleans it on his cloak. Not Valyrian steel, but serviceable. He sleeps in the rear pew with sword drawn, dreams of wildfire exploding beneath the Red Keep, of Cersei screaming his name from a tower while flames devour the city. In the dream, he never reaches her, his boots melting, gold cloak burning to ash. He wakes before dawn, sweat colder than the stones beneath him. King's Landing thrums with summer heat despite the changing season. The stench hits first, night soil, gutters, tannery pits. Then the clamor. Hammers on anvils, merchants hawking bruised fruit. The clang of the city guard harassing a drunkard at the mud gate. Jaime halts atop a ridge to watch the red walls shimmer in sun. It feels obscene to approach on a common courser like a cell's word. No banners fluttering, no trumpets. Yet he is a ghost returning to haunt the place of his birthright. He enters at dusk among traders returning from Rosby. Guards wave them through after cursory checks. No one expects the Kingslayer to arrive wearing drab rags, beard ragged, eyes sunken. Even so, he feels naked passing under the murder holes where hot pitch could rain. The city crowds swallow him. He moves like a shadow, skirting torchlit main ways, sticking to alleys where rats rule and hungry dogs snarl over offal. Lannister crimson emblazons tavern signs and recruiting posters, but the air is not one of victory, it is fear. He hears talk of Stannis rallying after the Blackwater, of Robb marching south, of Tywin's armies stretched too thin. The common folk whisper that the boy king's temper grows with each tightening siege of rumor. Fingers vanish for jests told too loud. Tongues disappear for less. Jaime lodges at a brothel in the Street of Silk, paying with stolen coin. He takes no woman, only a bath and a silence nobody questions. From the shutters of a dim upper chamber, he surveys the rooftops, pointing like accusing fingers at the Red Keep. There, behind layers of stone and steel, sits the boy he must kill. Beside him, almost certainly, the queen who is mother and twin. How do you kill your sister's son while sparing your sister's heart? He turns the question until sunrise, and still the blade of it will not dull. In the throne room, Joffrey Baratheon lounges on Aegon's iron throne, legs draped over an armrest, crown tilted. 2 Kingsguard knights stand white-armored below. Boros blunt, moon-faced and sweating. Osmond Kettleblack, eyes too sly for a sworn shield. Tyrion Lannister enters with a sheaf of parchment, not bothering to wait for announcement. Since the battle, he walks with a cane, though he'll never let anyone call it weakness. "My king," he begins. Joffrey yawns. "Uncle, speak quickly." Reports from the north. Robb Stark holds the twins and may march south come spring. The River Lords. "Let them march," Joffrey interrupts. "I'll mount his head beside Lord Eddard's." Tyrion's jaws clench. "A second Stark head won't bring peace, your grace. We need alliances." "I have my alliances." Joffrey gestures grandly. Grandfather holds Harrenhal, mother commands the board, and I... He thumps the throne's arm. "Rule. Rule," Jaime thinks, watching unseen from a high walkway behind a tapestry, "is a word you barely understand, boy." He has bribed a scullion to leave a side door unbarred. He creeps through servants' corridors until he spies the throne room from above, his vantage hidden by dusty dragon banners. 15 paces below sits his target, flippant and golden-haired as any Lannister cub. Jaime's fingers itch on the dagger's hilt. 1 throw, maybe 2, but the hall teems with guards. Cersei is likely near. Too bold, too soon. Tyrion continues. The city starves. Grain prices double each moon. If the people riot again, let them eat their dead, Joffrey snaps. Jaime closes his eyes. Aerys once said the same. He feels the heat of wildfire ghosts licking his skin. Retreating before impulse, Jaime slips back into the warren of passages, mind racing. He needs a plan cunning enough to reach the king yet swift enough to flee with Sansa, or Arya, if she yet lives, before the city's garrison closes its jaws. Sansa Stark kneels before a cracked looking glass in her bedchamber. She braids her hair by habit, though the strands tremble between her fingers. Since the Blackwater victory feast, she has sensed watchful eyes in every shadow. Joffrey's promises of marriage shift like snakes shedding skins. One day devotion, the next contempt. A soft knock startles her. She opens to find a hooded man, limping, cloaked in plain wool. He steps inside before she can protest and closes the door. "Forgive the intrusion, my lady." He lowers the hood. Gray streaks a beard that once shone like beaten gold. "We should speak quickly." Sansa's breath hitches.
"Sir Jaime, no titles."
He scans the chamber. Walls have ears in the Red Keep. Tears prick her eyes. "Are you come to kill me?" "Quite the opposite." He kneels, surprising her more than any threat. "I swore to your mother I'd see you safe." The name mother strikes like an arrow. Sansa stifles a sob. Is she alive? For now. But Westeros slides toward fire. He produces a small roll of parchment sealed in wax. "Robb demands your release. The queen will refuse. So we choose a harsher path." Sansa's gaze drops to the seal, wax stamped with the direwolf of Stark. Her hands shake as she accepts it. "What do you want of me, sire? When the time comes, you will be asked to walk the royal gardens at dusk. I'll arrange a distraction. Follow the man with the bloody cloak." "And where will we go?" "Home," he says. A simple word, soft as wool over steel. "Beyond that, the gods must guide us." She nods, though fear coils tighter than hope. Jaime touches her shoulder, a brief, father-like gesture, then slips out the door. Cersei Lannister reclines in her solar, sipping arbor gold. Moonlight pours through arrow slits, painting her gown silver. She asks the mirror who is the truest lion left, and the glass gives no answer. Pageboy enters, bowing low. "Your Grace." Lord Baelish requests. Send him away, she says, never lifting her gaze. But, out. The boy scurries. Cersei closes her eyes, listening to the hum of crickets beyond the walls. Since Tywin departed for Harrenhal, the burden of rule rests on her shoulders alone. She will not show weakness. Never. Yet nights lengthen, and rumors creep in like mold. Stannis rebuilt his fleet. Robb forged new treaties. Even Dorne stirs. Worse, the small folk whisper Joffrey is cursed. A child of perversion. A demon come to punish a sinful city. Cersei drinks and thinks of Jaime, her twin, her other half, captive, lost, or worse, changed. She imagines him riding south, armor tarnished, eyes cooler, mouth set to some purpose she cannot read. She dreams of him standing behind her with a sword. And sometimes, in darker hours, she dreams he raises it. Jaime stalks the Red Keep's underbelly. Dungeons, stables, forgotten cellars where wildfire once nested. He maps secret doors he learned as a boy. Each night he marks progress. Each dawn he steals another uniform piece. Helm, cloak, gilded belt, from inattentive guards. By the 7th day he can pass for a Lannister man-at-arms. But a problem remains. How to strike the king where no armor nor white cloak shields him. He watches Joffrey's routines. Morning light in the Godswood with Septa Eglantine and 2 guards. Midday lessons in the royal yard, swinging a sword at straw. Evening feasts drawn long with minstrels and fools. Guards multiply wherever Joffrey steps. Jaime waits. Patience is a hunter's virtue he never cultivated. Yet now necessity forces him. At last, opportunity glimmers. A royal hunt declared past the mud gate. A show of bravery to please the small folk. Joffrey insists on riding alone save for 2 Kingsguard. Osmond and Balon Swan and a page. The truth. The city stores no game worth hunting. But the king intends to loose crossbow bolts upon poor men forced to play the quarry. Still, outside walls means fewer eyes, fewer blades. Jaime readies. He arms himself with dagger and sword both. Beneath the stolen helm his heart beats thunder. He mingles with squires assembling horses at dawn. Head low. The king emerges, gleaming in crimson and gold, crossbow cradled like a scepter. He laughs at some jest Osmond murmurs. The party rides through the Lion Gate into gray morning fog. Jaime follows at discreet distance, disguised among stable hands tasked with carrying water and bait. 2 miles from the walls, among stunted oak scrub, Joffrey dismounts to relieve himself. Osmond stands at his back, Balon a few paces away. Jaime feels time slow. Fog curls like ghost breath, muffling sound. He slips from his horse, hand on dagger. 3 heartbeats. 2, 1. A peasant bursts from the brush, torn clothes waving like flags. "Mercy, Lord King!" he cries, falling to knees. Joffrey swings his crossbow toward the man. "Stand and run if you want mercy." The boy snarls. Jaime's chance wavers. Guards tense. The moment frays. Then Balon shouts, "More coming!" Indeed, shadows in the fog. Bandits? Or small folk driven by hunger? None matter. Chaos erupts. Shouts, horses screaming. Joffrey fires wild, bolt disappearing into vapor. Jaime moves. He lunges behind Osmond, drives the iron dagger beneath articulated plates at the base of the neck. The Kingsguard stiffens, mouth opening in wordless question. Blood blossoms. Jaime shoves the body aside, steps to Joffrey. The king turns, eyes wide, not recognizing the bearded face beneath plain helm. Jaime rips the helm free. Time falters. Recognition dawns, terror following. "Uncle?" The dagger flashes again, straight between ribs, up under breastbone. Fingers tighten on crossbow trigger. String twangs, bolt thuds into mud. Joffrey gasps like a child robbed of breath. Jaime leans close. "The realm will thank me, though I suspect not today." He twists the blade. Joffrey's knees buckle. Jaime eases him down like laying a babe to rest, though gentleness ends there. Blood pools, steam curling in the chill. Balon Swan wheels, sword raised. His gaze locks on Jaime, then drops to the king's corpse. Horror wars with duty. Stand aside, sir, Jaime says. Spare yourself. Balon's knuckles whiten on the hilt. Kingslayer twice over. Jaime breathes, voice breaking. Twice. Clamor rises. The other guards returning, the supposed bandits fleeing. Jaime backs away, mounts a horse bareback. Balon does not pursue. He kneels instead, pressing shaking hands to the boy king's still chest. Jaime spurs the steed toward the treeline. Fog swallows him, hoofbeats fading like a heartbeat stilled. In King's Landing the news flies quicker than ravens. The king is dead. Slain on royal hunt. Osmond Kettleblack slain. The killer? Whispers name Jaime, though some claim faceless men or northern assassins, or even the hound returned. Cersei's scream echoes through the Red Keep, a sound that rattles cups in kitchens and drives sparrows from eaves. She smashes goblets, tears drapes, shoves maids aside. Tyrion finds her kneeling amid shattered glass, crown clutched in white fists. "He killed my boy," she says, voice splintered. "He killed my heart." Tyrion kneels too, though shards bite his knees. "We must think, Cersei. Tommen is heir now. The Iron Throne cannot appear weak. Find Jaime," she hisses. "Bring me his head." Tyrion nods, though dread coils. The realm teeters at an edge sharper than ever. In the corridors outside, gold cloaks marshal, small folk murmur, and the smell of smoke drifts from Flea Bottom, riot already blooming. North of the city, Jaime rides till moonrise before daring to slow. He stops at a lonely shrine to the warrior, half crumbled, but the statue's sword still stands upright. Jaime kneels in mud, pressing forehead to cold stone. "I was meant to protect," he whispers. Wind moans through broken archways. "Yet I've stained my shield again." But the memory of Joffrey's cruelty flickers, and he feels no regret. Only sorrow for Cersei, and a weariness deeper than bone. He still must free Sansa, must bargain somehow with Cersei's wrath, must reach the Stark girl and haul her through war-torn roads to Riverrun. The blade of duty twists anew. He rises, wipes dagger clean on cloak hem, and looks north. There, beyond moons and snows, wait dire wolves and judgment, yet perhaps also redemption. He mounts, spurs the horse into night, and the chapter of kings ends beneath a sky unburdened of one more cursed crown. At Riverrun, Robb Stark listens to the Raven's message in silence. Around the war council table, lords mutter half-formed oaths. "How?" Great John Umber asks. "Does it matter?" Edmure Tully counters. "Joffrey is dead." Catelyn closes her eyes, tears not of grief but of terrible hope. Across the room, the direwolf gray wind lifts his head and howls. Robb voices the thought all fear. The lion has shown teeth against its own. We must be ready. Yet perhaps the board just changed. He meets his mother's gaze. "We must find Sansa now, before Cersei crowns Tommen and blames us for the deed." Catelyn nods. "Pray my daughters still breathe." Outside the walls, ravens wing toward every cardinal point, carrying word of a boy king fallen by his uncle's hand, of a realm poised once more on the brink where mercy and murder meet. And somewhere on a muddy road, Jaime Lannister presses a blood-stained hand to his breast and wonders whether the next man to call him Kingslayer will do so in awe or loathing, or both at once, while he rides a destiny stitched now in crimson, wolf gray, and gold. The moon was an absent coin in a sky of iron when Jaime Lannister reached the wooded rise above Sow's Horn. Once a crooked watchtower crowned the hill, long since fallen to moss and ivy. Yet its crumbling silhouette still commanded the valley road like a blind old lord. Jaime dismounted beneath the broken arches, letting the bay mare drink from a rain-swollen hollow in the stone. Wind sighed through the tower's ribs. Leaves whispered of autumn wolves already prowling the neck of winter. He listened, every nerve stretched taut, but heard only the hush of distant crickets and the slow churn of river water somewhere beyond the trees. Freedom tasted sour tonight. The king's blood clung to him like smoke no downpour could wash clean. He rubbed his sword hand, half expecting to find crusted red between the knuckles. then pried open the leather satchel strapped behind his saddle. Inside, wrapped in linen, lay an ivory pawn carved as a roaring lion, the token he had promised Sansa to mark her path of escape. A child's comfort, perhaps, yet in the halls of the Red Keep even crumbs of hope became bread. He set the pawn at the tower's threshold, small white sentinel against black stone, and whispered a prayer he scarcely believed. If the girl reached this hill by dawn 2 nights hence, he would guide her north through secret goat paths that skirted the Trident. If she did not come, well, his promises would die together with the rest of him. The horse nickered softly. Jaime stroked its damp neck, then led the beast into the ruin's shadow to wait out the dark. He would not risk a campfire. Too many eyes might already be hunting golden heads in Riverlander forests. Instead, he stripped the sodden cloak from his shoulders, wrung it out, and wrapped it tighter, curling beneath a slab of fallen masonry. Rain began in earnest, drumming a restless cadence on broken stone. Sleep stole over him in ragged snatches. Visions of wildfire green flames licking crimson armor, of Cersei's face pinched and furious beneath a crown too heavy for grief, of little Tommen sobbing while ravens cawed, "All kings must die, all kings must die." He woke before every dream could end, heart pounding. Dawn's first smear of pewter light found him already saddled, riding west toward a small village where a man named Shadrich, once a free rider in Tywin's host, was rumored to sell information to the highest bidder. Jaime needed safe roads more than coin. The hamlet crouched beside a lazy tributary, mud-walled huts clustered like mice at a cat's feet. Smoke curled from reed roofs. The air smelled of turnips and tallow. Jaime left his mare at a trough and ducked inside a tavern whose sign bore a flayed boar, paint flaking. A scattering of farmers nursed small beer. 2 sellswords drowsed in a corner. Behind the bar, a woman with hard eyes polished clay cups with a rag. "Food and a word with Shadrich," Jaime said, keeping his hood low. Her gaze slid to the sword at his hip, lingered on the lion embossed faint in the pommel. "If that's Lannister steel, best keep it hid." He placed 3 silver stags on the counter. "I'll wager coins still welcome." She grunted, pocketed the stags, and jerked her chin at the back. "Cellar." Shadrich sat amid kegs of sour ale, plucking feathers from a goose and humming a Dornish tune. Lantern light gilded pox-scarred cheeks. One glance at Jaime's face and the humming ceased. "Kingslayer," a sly smile. "Or shall I say Kingslayer now?" Jaime slid onto an upturned cask opposite. "Rumor runs faster than ravens. Rumor has wings of gold." Shadrich yanked a feather free. "Killing a boy king's a bold play, even for a Lannister. Keep your judgments. I need a map of byroads to Maidenpool. Paths your friends the Freys don't patrol." Shadrich considered, fingers slick with goose blood. "Maps cost. Information costs more." Jaime leaned forward. "The Queen will soon pay a bounty for my head. You can chase that gold, or take what I offer now and live to spend it." "And what do you offer?" "Tywin's respect." Shadrich barked a laugh. "The old lion's respect buys less since you put a dagger in his legacy. Not half so little as the Queen's vengeance when she learns who whispered my name in her ear." Jaime's smile was thin. "Sell me, and Cersei will flay the flesh from your bones to see if you hid secrets beneath." Silence thickened. A drop of goose blood struck the lantern, hissed. Shadrich wiped his hands on straw. "2 gold dragons," he said at last. "And you never saw my face." Jaime tossed the coins. "You'll mark the route in ink." By noon he rode out with a grease-spotted parchment and a pouch lighter, but his mind felt stranger still. He had wielded threats like a knife, and it had felt right. The taste of courtly intrigue returned as a language once native, now foreign on his tongue. Yet he could not dwell. Time pressed like a blade at his back. Within King's Landing, bells tolled for the Boy King 6 times a day, yet each clang fed new discord. Mobs thronged Cobbler's Square, shrieking half-baked prayers, blaming every house in turn. Some swore Stannis' Red Woman birthed a shadow killer. Others hissed that Stark wolves slunk through alleys, fangs dripping lion blood. Rumor said even the rats in the cellars squeaked of treachery. In the Tower of the Hand, Tyrion Lannister limped across a mosaic of dragons and roses, each step measured yet unsteady. Maester Franken followed, clutching parchment. 341 dead in last night's riot, Franken read, voice thin. 2 granaries fired, bakers hanged from their own kneading hooks. Tyrion paused at a window slit. Below, smoke coiled above Flea Bottom like a sluggish serpent. Our small folk starve and stab each other, yet somehow still find breath to scream my family's name. He turned, brow knit. Any word from father? None, my lord. Ravens to Harrenhal return unanswered. Perhaps the Blackwater burned more bridges than ships. Tyrion gripped the cane. Pain lanced his knee. Send riders. If Lord Tywin means to arrive in force, I must know how soon. Franken bowed and shuffled off. Tyrion remained, eyes narrowed against the smoke. In corners of memory he saw his nephew's corpse. Pale cheeks mottled purple where blood pooled, mouth fixed in eternal, astonished outrage. Not even Moon Tea could purge that image. And yet a sliver of him, one blackened shard, whispered that the realm was lighter by one cruelty. Footsteps sounded behind him. Varys emerged, hands folded in voluminous sleeves. My lord Hand, he purred. News travels Quicksilver. Ravens out of Dragonstone bear Stannis' seal. He calls the king's death proof of Lannister corruption and invites all men of justice to rally under the fiery heart. Tyrion grimaced. Stannis will spin even the wind to thread his banners. Indeed, Varys' smile was soft. But there is more. The Tyrell fleet sails north. Lord Mace smells roses in the debris and seeks to plant them around Tommen's brow before Queen Cersei may gather her thorns. That will sit poorly upon my sweet sister, as sour wine upon sweet cake. Tyrion tapped the cane. The city must hold together until father returns. We'll placate the faith, seal the granaries, and hang looters at dawn. Fear is cheaper than bread. Varys inclined his head. Spoken like Ares risen, though I mean no insult. Tyrion's laughter was brittle. If I grow mad, you'll tell me, I trust? In a whisper, my lord. The queen paced her solar like a trapped she-wolf, crimson skirts swirling. Marjorie Tyrell waited near the hearth, face demure, hands clasped over green velvet. Yet her eyes flickered like candle flames each time Cersei turned her back. You will wed Tommen in a moon's turn, Cersei said without preamble. The High Septon will anoint him crowned king, you queen consort. The realm craves stability. Marjorie bowed. I serve at your grace's pleasure. See that you serve at my son's. Cersei stopped before the girl. If Tommen sheds a tear, you'll soothe him. If he falters, you'll prop him. Harm him, and I'll feed you every stone of Highgarden before dawn. A mother's love is fierce, Marjorie murmured. I cherish that. Cersei sensed hidden daggers behind every courtesy. Yet for now she needed roses, especially ones with thorns she could snap. Leave me. When the Tyrell girl departed, Cersei poured wine, hands trembling. She pictured Jaime riding through the gates any moment, flinging himself at her feet, pleading forgiveness, explaining some grand plan. But each hour stretched, silent and empty. She drank deeply, and the silence grew fangs. Sansa Stark counted the tolling bells, 1, 2, 3, then rose from her embroidery frame. Joffrey's death had not freed her. If anything, her cage now bristled with new bars. Ser Meryn followed her like a shadow. Tommen's kittens skittered beneath every curtain, and Cersei's ladies hovered to pluck secrets from the air. Only in the garden at dusk, amid drooping myrtles and statues green with moss, did she find brief solace. Tonight, purple twilight pooled behind the red keep like bruised silk. Crickets sang in hedges. She walked the gravel path until a low whistle stilled her heart. From behind a cypress stepped a tall man in gold-edged mail, helmet tucked under arm. The garden torchlight limned gray in his beard, but his eyes were bright and grim. He knelt swiftly. My lady, we must move. Sansa's pulse hammered. Ser Jaime, there are guards. 2 fewer than yesterday. I paid their debts. He offered his hand. The passage lies beyond the September. Once we breach the postern, we ride. Fear loomed like a wall, yet behind it flickered shard-thin hope. She placed her fingers in his. They hurried past marble maidens, under archways where ivy draped like curtain cords. At the base of the sept, a narrow door stood ajar. Beyond, a spiral stair plunged into darkness. Jaime took a torch from a sconce, lit it. The flame painted damp steps amber. Rats skittered ahead. Halfway down, voices echoed above. Distant shouts, bootfalls. Jaime cursed. They've found the guards. They descended faster, torch guttering. At the stairs' foot opened an ancient corridor, low-ceilinged, its walls slick with seeping brine. King Maegor's forgotten escape ways, if the old maps spoke true. Water puddled ankle-deep. Sansa shivered but pressed on. At each turn Jaime scratched a lion's sigil into the slime with his dagger, to mark return if the maze twisted. Suddenly torchlight kissed iron bars. A rust-eaten grate sealed the tunnel's far mouth. Beyond, Sansa glimpsed black water swirling. Moonbeam fingers reached through cracks. Freedom glimmered a stride away. Jaime wedged his shoulders, shoved. The grate screeched but refused. He tried again, metal groaning. From behind, the bootfalls neared, echoes hammering stone. Voices shouted orders. "Go," Sansa whispered, tears hot. "Leave me." "Not again," Jaime snarled. He searched, found a lever bolted into wall. Its handle fused with age. He battered it with pommel blows.
Rustvleeks vloe.
With a final crack, the pin sheared. The grate sagged outward, top hinge snapping. Jaime thrust shoulders, pried it wide. Through! Sansa scrambled, skirts soaking in seawater. Jaime followed, tugged the grate back into place. Half jammed. Pebble skittered, then silence. In the faint moonlight beyond the tunnel mouth, a skiff lay tethered to a slimy ladder. Jaime helped her descend, then untied the rope. They pushed off. The Blackwater's tide cradled the skiff, carrying them beneath a pier's shadow. Somewhere upriver torchfires danced along mud gate ramparts, but none glanced their way. Jaime shipped oars, guiding the craft into deeper dark. Sansa clutched the pawn he had given her, thumb worrying the lion's mane. "Where now?" "South, then east under cover of river mist," he said. "A fisher's cove lies 3 miles downstream, safe enough till dawn. Horses wait beyond." He paused, meeting her gaze. "Home waits beyond that." She exhaled, a breath edged with disbelief. Tears welled, but she blinked them back. "Thank you." A simple phrase, frail beside the roaring engines of war, yet it warmed Jaime more than any hearth. He rode steady, muscles singing. Perhaps redemption demanded more than one severed crown, but tonight he had taken the first true stride upon that brutal path. Back in the city, torches flickered along the long bridge where gold cloaks halted fleeing small folk, searching baskets and barrels for contraband. One lantern glared on the inert face of a strung-up guard. Throat slit, purse emptied. Captain Adam Marbrand chewed curses between teeth. The night stank of treason. "They slipped the net," he told Ser Balon Swan, who stood pale with worry. "If the Queen learns I let them escape, better the Queen's wrath than the realm's ruin," Marbrand muttered. "We'll send riders north and south, track every road." He looked across black water. Somewhere out there a skiff bobbed free. Rage simmered behind his ribs. Tonight the Lannister name bled too freely. First a king, now a prince's bride. The realm teetered on the cusp of anarchy, and all the red cloaks in Westeros might not so order fast enough. Lightning cracked over Harrenhal, revealing towers like burnt fingers clawing heaven. Inside the great hall, Lord Tywin Lannister read the Raven twice, then a third time, each pass deepening the crevices beside his mouth. Outside, rain hammered stone. Inside, men shifted uneasily, waiting. At last Tywin folded the parchment and spoke without looking up. "Summon the lords. We march at once." Kevin Lannister cleared his throat. "Brother, the men are footsore, and our scouts report Stark outriders probing the Green Fork. We march. Tywin's voice was steel ground on steel. Jaime kills my grandson, steals the Stark girl, and flees south. Every pisspot inn will bristle with rumor by week's end. We will answer rumor with swords. Kevin inclined his head. As you command. When the chamber cleared, Tywin remained, eyes on the ember glow of the hearth. In that glow writhed images. Joanna's laugh, Cersei's infant wail, Jaime's promise that no Lannister cub would ever die by wolf or lion claw. Yet the cub lay cold in crimson silk, and the lion who slew him now prowled the dark like a feral thing. Across the hall, Ser Gregor Clegane leaned against a pillar, impassive. Tywin's gaze flicked to the mountain. You'll ride with the vanguard. Bring my son back alive. Clegane's smile was a broken door swung wide. Alive? For justice? For judgment. Tywin tipped wine into a silver cup, though he did not drink. When a sword forgets its master's hand, we remind it who forged the steel. Beyond Sow's horn, dawn broke bruised pink. Jaime stood atop the watchtower ruins, scanning the road. His mare grazed among nettles, ears twitching. At the foot of the hill, a lone rider approached at cautious trot. Brienne of Tarth, mail glinting, Oathkeeper sheathed across her broad back. Jaime's chest tightened, equal parts relief and dread. She reined in beside him, face grave. Word reached me in Maidenpool, she said. They claim you murdered Joffrey. I did. His honesty stunned them both. Yet not for spite. The boy was wrong for the throne. Brienne dismounted, fists clenching. Killing kings is treason. So I'm treason thrice crowned. He half smiled. I'd add another crown if it saves the realm. Her scowl deepened, but she followed him to the tower's shadow where Sansa waited, cloaked in rough spun and shivering despite the growing light. Brienne's expression softened. My lady, she knelt. Your mother searches half the world. Gods be praised. Tears glittered on Sansa's lashes. We still must reach her. Jaime spread Shadrich's map. We ride to Fairmarket, cross the Blue Fork, then circle north of the Twins to avoid Fry patrols. With luck, we reach Seaguard in 10 days. Robb's outriders prowl there. Brienne studied the inked paths. We'll need more than luck. Bolton men scour the Trident, and Karstark hostages choke every river town. Jaime's gaze locked on hers. Then we rely on steel. He touched Oathkeeper's pommel. You swore to keep her safe. Help me honor that vow. Brienne nodded, resolve firming like forged iron. Together, then, they armed Sansa with a dagger, small, plain, lethal. Horses pawed impatient. Above, clouds gathered, promising more rain. Jaime breathed deep of damp air and thought of another road 30 years ago, when a squire named Jaime dreamed only of shining in tourneys, of winning maidens' favors with gallant smiles. That boy lay dead beneath the Kingslayer's tarnished armor. But perhaps, beneath both corpses, a man yet lived who could do one thing right. They rode single file down the hill. Behind them, in the tower ruins, the ivory lion pawn gleamed faint beneath a slant of sun. A promise kept, a marker on a road that twisted still deeper into shadow. Ahead stretched leagues of uncertain earth. Broken bridges, hostile shores, rivers swollen with red spring melt. Yet hoofbeats drummed a steady vow. Each mile won would be won in blood, but each mile carried Sansa Stark closer to home, and Jaime Lannister a step further from the gilded cage he had shattered with his own bloody hands. In the shadowed hall of Riverrun's sept, Catelyn Stark knelt before the statue of the mother, fingers knotted in prayer. Candles flickered, softening the hard tilt of her brows. She pleaded for her daughter's safety, for her sons' souls, for the fragile alliances that tethered Robb's crown to hope. Footsteps echoed behind. She rose, brushing tears aside. Ser Brynden Tully entered, cloak dark as a raven's wing. Sister, riders returned from Seaguard. Her breath caught. News. Bolton dogs prowl the Green Fork, yet scouts spied a tall woman escorting 2 cloaked figures south of Fairmarket. One bore Lannister steel. Hope flared sharp and bright. Brienne. So it seems. Bryndon's eyes softened. Your girls may yet come home. Caitlyn's heart thudded uneven. She pressed trembling hands to her lips. "Tell Robb, ready an escort. We ride at first light." Brynden nodded. "And Lady Stark, arm yourself with patience. The world may yet conspire. I have naught else to arm me." She glanced at the mother's serene face. "But pray the gods bar every road that would break my daughters now." In candlelight, her shadow knelt anew. Outside, pigeons cooed in the eaves, indifferent to human war. Yet on every breeze, rumors flew. A Queenslayer's flight, a lion's roar turned inward, and the distant drum of winter shaking its white spears in the frozen north beyond every mortal plot. 3 days beyond the Green Fork, Jaime's party discovered the burnt shell of an inn. The crossed stag, roof collapsed, ale yard churned to mire. Smoke still twined faintly from blackened beams. Brienne dismounted first SW. Ord bared. Sansa clung to her reins, eyes wide. "They torched it yesterday," Brienne murmured, boot testing ash. "Smells fresh." Jaime sifted char through fingers, found a coin melted into a puddle of alloy. "Fry vengeance," he guessed. Travelers answering for one dead king. Inside, a single body lay curled near the hearth. Woman or child was impossible to tell. Flies buzzed, drawn by heat of smoldering timbers. Sansa turned away, choking. Jaime's gut twisted. He had taken a piece off the board, yet left wolves and lions to rend the table. Was the price worth such ruin? "We move," Brienne said. "Smoke marks us." They rode hard till dusk, every river crossing fraught with eyes they felt but could not see. That night they camped in a hollow screened by elder trees. Sansa tended the horses while Jaime and Brienne crouched over a flickering fire no bigger than a man's fist. "What awaits us in Riverrun?" Brienne asked. "War council, grief, suspicion." Jaime stared into flames. "Robb will not embrace a man who killed his prisoner, no matter the bargain. You spared his sisters. So far." Jaime tossed a twig, sparks spiraling. "His lords will call for my head." Brienne's jaw set. "They'll have to cross me." She said it simply, yet the promise rang like steel on steel. Jaime's chest tightened. An ache neither wound nor love exactly, but a fierce respect that startled him. He reached out, touched her mailed forearm. "You are a true knight, whatever fools may say." Color bloomed on her cheeks in firelight. "I swore an oath. Oaths can be chains. Or keys," she answered. They shared silence thick with unsaid thoughts till Sansa approached. Cloak pulled tight. "I found berries," she said, offering a handful of crimson elderberries. Jaime thanked her, though hunger wavered, clamped by memory of the inn's char. Still, he ate too, savoring tart sweetness. Proof that living things yet grew in a land gone mad. From the walls of Harrenhal, ravens burst like soot-feathered arrows into dawn, each bearing Tywin's terse command. All banners south converge upon Maidenpool. Jaime to be taken alive. Across river and hill, men read the message and felt the wind shift, thick with storm. At Dragonstone, Stannis Baratheon traced the barley fork of the trident on a soot-black map. Melisandre stood behind him, lips moving in murmured prayer. The king's jaw tightened. "The usurper's cub slain by lion claws," Stannis muttered. "Still the Iron Throne slips from honest hands. The flames reveal paths, your grace." Melisandre's red eyes glimmered. "A golden beast devours itself, clearing the field. Then we march. Patience. Fire consumes, but ash feeds soil. Let Lannisters bleed each other. When the soot settles, your righteous fury will burn clean." Stannis grunted, balancing caution against pride. In the flame-lit chamber, shadows danced like assassins. North of the neck, deep in the Wolfswood, a ragged band of Karstark loyalists knelt before a hooded man with snow-frozen beard. Rickard Karstark's bastard son, Harrion the Black. Word of Joffrey's death reached him on a pock-scarred Sellsword's lips, and now vengeance blazed new. "The young wolf freed the Kingslayer once," Harrion snarled. "Now the lion slays his own blood. Stark honor is drowned in pink slime. We will cut the pretender to ribbons and feast on Lionheart." Axes rose in silent oath. Winter's wind carried their vow southward. Jaime, Brienne, and Sansa reached Seaguard's outskirts under moonless night, cloaked in sea fog. The great Boar's watchtower loomed, its bells rusted but still formidable. Ships bobbed in the harbor, many masts bare, black sails folded like bat wings. At the eastern gate, a wary sergeant challenged them. "Who rides so late?" "Travelers from Maidenpool," Brienne answered, voice steady. "We seek Lord Mallister's hospitality." Tolls doubled. Jaime produced 2 silver stags. The sergeant weighed coins, shrugged, waved them through. Within, Seaguard slumbered beneath the scents of brine and tar. Lanterns dotted wharves. Gulls shrieked in dark. They found a stable behind the Trout and Talon Inn and bedded the horses. Inside, the taproom glowed amber. Sailors murmured over mugs. Jaime chose a corner table where shadows pooled. Brienne fetched stew, Sansa water. A minstrel plucked a harp near the hearth, voice low. The lion roared. The dragon wept. A crown of thorns in darkness slept. A wolf's howl split the moonlit night, and blood rode red on wings of flight. Jaime's spoon paused mid-lift. Everywhere songs already spun of Joffrey's fall. His eyes met Brienne's across the bowl. She understood. Stories travel quick and stories kill. After the stew, they retired to a cramped chamber upstairs. Jaime barred the door, then laid the map on the floorboards. From here, 2 roads. We press upriver to Riverrun, or veer east and cross the Trident at Stonehenge. Robb's scouts reported there. Fewer Fry patrols, but more chance of bandits. Brienne traced the ink. Stonehenge is closer. Sansa knelt, candle flame flickering in her eyes. If Mother is at Riverrun, let us go home directly. Her voice trembled. I can bear one more day. Jaime weighed the risk. Riverrun's siege lines shifted with every raven. Karstark raiders harried supply. Yet Stonehenge meant no safe castle at journey's end, only open road and hope. He pressed thumb to map where Riverrun's red circle sat like a throat cut. Riverrun, he said. Brienne nodded once, decisive. They slept fitful hours. Before dawn, a knock rattled the latch. Jaime sprang, dagger in hand. Brienne swung the door. A page bowed, eyes downcast. Beg pardon, lords, milady. Lord Mallister requests audience. Jaime exchanged a glance with Brienne. Lead, he said. In the Lord Solar, Jason Mallister awaited, hawk-nosed, graying hair pulled back. Riverrun's banner hung behind him. Beside, the silver eagle of House Mallister. 2 guards flanked the door. Mallister's gaze pierced. Lady Sansa Stark, your face brings hope to these stormed halls. He bowed. Your mother rides even now from Riverrun. She sent ravens to every house to watch for you. Relief washed across Sansa's features, fragile as dawn. Mallister continued. Yet rumors outrun you, sire. He faced Jaime. They name you Kinslayer and Queenslayer to come. Why bear a Stark maiden north? Plot or penance? Jaime sheathed the dagger deliberately. A debt, paid in blood. Mallister tapped a parchment. Lord Robb will decide payment. Until then, Seaguard offers food and beds, under guard. Jaime inclined head. He expected no less. 2 evenings later, trumpets brayed atop Seaguard's walls as a rider approached from the south. Gray cloak streaming, dire wolf pennant snapping. Catelyn Stark entered the gatehouse, face pale, eyes fever-bright. Jaime watched from a balcony as she dismounted, refused servants' hands, and strode straight to the keep. In the great hall, Mallister had assembled a council. Banners of Mallister, Blackwood, small folk aldermen. Brienne stood sentinel by Sansa, tall as legend. Jaime faced them unbound, though for spears hovered within reach. Catelyn's steps faltered when she saw her daughter. For one heartbeat neither spoke. Then Sansa ran, skirts swirling. They collided in desperate embrace. All else vanished beneath the sound of a mother's sob. Jaime looked away, throat tight. He felt Brienne's stare but did not meet it. At length, Catelyn released Sansa, smoothing auburn hair as though to memorize each strand. Only then did she turn to Jaime, grief and steel entwined in her gaze. "You kept your word," she said. "I owed it," he answered. "The realm owes blood for blood." Her voice shook. "Yet today I grant safe conduct to Riverrun. Tomorrow the king will judge." Jaime inclined head. "Acceptance, nothing more." Mal Lister raised a cup. "Let us toast reunion." But before lips touched wine, a horn blasted from the ramparts. A guard burst in, breathless. Fry banners to the east, 3,000 strong. Chaos erupted. Chairs scraped, swords hissed free. Mal Lister barked orders. Jaime felt the old thrill of battle coil in marrow. Freys would not parley. They would avenge Joffrey's death or die. Catelyn gripped Sansa's hand. "We must flee." "Too late," Jaime murmured. "Walls will hold or fall." Brienne drew Oathkeeper. "Then we fight." Steel answered steel. Outside, drums thundered. The siege of Seaguard began. Another ripple from the stone Jaime had hurled into Westeros' fragile pond. He wondered, as he tightened gauntlets, whether any deed could balance the scales now. Yet the hour allowed no pondering, only blood. He stepped beside Brienne, drew sword. Sansa and Catelyn hurried toward the keep's inner stair, guarded by Mal Lister men. As bells rang, Jaime lifted the lion pommel blade to his brow, inhaled salt wind, and strode toward the gate where Fry arrows hailed like iron rain. He felt alive, terribly, violently alive, and for the first time since a boy named Bran fell screaming, Jaime Lannister did not flee from what he had become. He wielded it. Outside, the storm-gray sea roared approval, and within its cry Jaime heard the echo of a choice yet to come. Live long enough to see this broken realm reforged, or die upon the anvil he had helped shatter, one last swing of fate's relentless hammer. Lightning forked across the black vault above Seaguard, illuminating a forest of spears massed beyond the east gate. The Fry host stretched along the causeway like a rust-brown centipede, banners snapping, twin towers, as far as Jaime could squint through driven rain. Each flash etched helms, pikes, bolt throwers wheeled from wagons. Between volleys of thunder came the lowing of war horns, funereal and hungry. On Seaguard's ramparts lanterns guttered in the wind. Mal Lister archers knocked arrows wrapped in linseed-soaked cloth, tips already aflame despite the downpour. Jaime climbed the inner stair too at a stride, Brienne behind him, both clad in half-plate scrounged from the armory. Seagull etchings of House Mal Lister, peeling gilt. At the Merlin he wiped rain from his lashes and studied the field. "Fry lines too tight," he muttered. "They'll bottleneck on the ditch." Brienne's jaw flexed. "Then we skewer them as they funnel." She raised Oathkeeper, moonlight spurting silver along its fuller. "Hold fast. 10 minutes, no more. Catelyn Stark needs that time to reach the harbor keep." Below, the courtyard churned with activity. Pikemen hustling into files, scullions hauling bundled arrows, maesters hurrying stretchers toward the sept in grim anticipation. Catelyn and Sansa dashed across the wet flagstones, guards bristling about them, torches bobbing. When the portcullis to the inner ward slammed, Jaime exhaled, a knot unsnarling. A crack like a tree splitting in winter answered the thought. The first Fry trebuchet stone smashed into the outer wall, vomiting shards of sandstone. Men along the parapet flinched. One lost footing, tumbling down the slick escarpment with a shriek cut short by the rocks below. Mal Lister trumpets replied, 3 short blasts, the signal to notch. Arrows ignited. The rampart hissed orange. Jaime raised his voice to the nearest sergeant. "Fire on the second rank when they reach the ditch, first ranks shielded." The man saluted. Jaime looked to Brienne. Rain striped her cheek like tears she'd never shed. She nodded once. No words left between them that battle could serve. Midfield, Fry drummers hammered cadence. The first enemy surge advanced, shields over helms, pikes low. Siege ladders rattled behind. Mal Lister bowstrings thrummed. Fiery shafts leapt, tracing brief constellations before dying against wet shields or burying in flesh where would split. Some banners caught fire, sputtered. then whirled skyward as carriers fell. Jaime's soaked surcoat clung to ribs. He felt oddly detached, as if watching a tourney tableau carved in living flesh. Each clang, each scream, slotted into place after Joffrey's dying gasp that still rang inside his skull. Kingslayer again and forever. Yet here, on these walls, he bled for strangers. Felt honest. A horn blast, short, insistent. "Rams!" someone shouted. Lumbering forms pushed through the fry press, 2 iron-shod beams under canvas awnings. Jaime cursed. They built those too damned fast. Brienne pointed with her blade. "Oil cauldrons. 3 left." Jaime signaled down. "Get them to the gatehouse." As pages sprinted, another trebuchet stone arced, trailing a tail of sickly green. He tensed. No wildfire, just moss-slick debris catching lantern light. It hit the curtain wall left of the main tower, toppling crenels. Rubble thundered into the courtyard. Screams followed. "Ladders!" Cry from the right. Dozens of long ash poles rose, hooked heads biting stone. Fry spearmen scrambled up, dogged despite arrows. Jaime darted along the parapet, ducking splinters. A ladder clattered against his merlin. Iron snout helmets appeared. He braced, stabbed downward. The narrow point found a throat. Hot blood spurted even in the cold rain. A second spear jabbed under his guard, skimming mail, punching a welt along his ribs. He grunted, backstepped, parried. Another Mallister pushed beside him, hacking the ladder stanchion. Toppled, bodies tumbling like rags. Brienne roared an order. Mallister men heaved a cauldron, tilting. Viscous oil cascaded through murder holes onto the first battering ram. Flames followed, arrows dipped in pitch. The ram whooshed alight, canvas erupting. Wetwood hissed but caught. Fry soldiers scattered, some burning, screams keening above rain. Jaime pivoted, scanning. Siege tower now rumbled forward, patchworked planks, doubtless thrown together but tall enough to kiss the parapet. Mallister scorpions, small torsion crossbows, unleashed quarrels that thudded into its facade with little effect. If that tower locked, enemy numbers would spill the wall like lice. He leapt down a stair, boots splashing, nearly colliding with a lad hauling a crate of corals. Signal the scorpion crew to aim lower, second axle. Undercut the brace. The boy blinked, shocked to be addressed by a battered knight in Mallister garb. He nodded, took off. Jaime pressed to the firing slit, flicking glance at the yard. Black Walder Fry himself urging men forward, sword aloft. Haste over sense. Typical Fry arrogance. A boom rattled doors. Ram 2 slammed the gate. Iron rungs rang.
Gate timbers shuddered.
Jaime judged they'd last half an hour if luck favored. Another ladder rose near him. He swung his sword hard, severed fingers on the rung grip. The attacker howled, plunging. He felt efficient, almost calm. Over the din, he heard Brienne's shout. "Left flank breach!" She fought near the sally port, blade blazing blue in torchlight. 2 frays gained the parapet. She turned one aside with a riposte, kicked him into the void, caught the other under the chin, thrust out. Oathkeeper slid free crimson, sparks flicking off wet stone. Jaime shoved through defenders toward her. Together they carved breathing room. Rain mixed with sweat, metal tang with sea salt. Suddenly horns behind Seaguard's harbor side. Jaime's heart skipped. Enemy reinforcement? No, Mallister war galleys inbound. A tower guard shouted, pointing seaward. Lanterns bobbed on the waves, many racing north. Jaime dared hope. Tully sails? No sigils visible in gloom, but the timing. Ballista loud crack. The scorpion shot smashed into siege tower axle. Wood splintered. Tower lurched, wheels catching mud. Cheers rose from defenders. Tower listed, crashed sideways, crushing Fry ranks. Mud flew like guts. Black Walder realized momentum lost. He waved banners. Some retreat call? Confusion rippled. Mallister horns countered. Gate open order? No, Jaime realized they were about to sally. "Hold!" he shouted, leaping before gatehouse captain. "Keep the phrase pressed, don't chase." They've reserves. But clamor swallowed words. The portcullis jerked, creaked upward handspans. A wedge of Mallister heavy infantry surged, shields locked. They hit the disorganized Fry front like a boar's tusk. For a heartbeat, Jaime admired the valor. Then he spotted the trap. Fresh cavalry forming beyond the Fry second line. Banner of Ramsay Snow, new-minted Bolton bastard, crimson flayed man. Bolton cavalry thundered, flanking the wedge. Jaime swore. Rain became knives as wind shifted, driving sheets sideways. Visibility shrank. He looked for Brienne. Found her at the now gaping gate, rallying archers to cover retreat. "Fall back!" she bellowed, voice cutting the storm. Her helm was gone, hair plastered gold across brow. She saw Jaime, pointed to portcullis winch. He sprinted, 2 strides per stair, seized lever. Together with a burly sergeant he cranked. Chains rattled, the grate groaned downward. Below, Mallister Wedge tried to withdraw, but Bolton cavalry hemmed them. Swords flashed, horses reared. Jaime's stomach churned. 10, 20 good men doomed for Lord's pride. As portcullis clanged shut, a lone Mallister knight hurled his shield between bars. An accusation. Hoofs trampled him moments later. Inside, chaos. Some defenders cheered closing gate. Others wept for kin outside. Mallister himself, Lord Jason, strode down stair, face carved from granite. "Who gave the order to sally?" "A misheard horn," a captain stammered. "My lord, forgive, save lament for graves," Mallister rasped. "We hold till dawn or die." Fry trebuchets resumed, stones smashing parapets. Yet Bolton cavalry withdrew. Objective met. Wedge slaughtered, gate intact.
Psychologikal war.
Thunder rolled overhead again. Jaime whispered to Brienne, "They'll press dawn assault. We can't withstand another." "Escape by sea?" she asked. "Fry ships blockade, unless those galleys came from Riverrun." They sought vantage at Western Spur. There below, 6 longships docked under partial cover. Slim, low draft, painted trout on prows. Men offloading barrels looked Riverlander. One saw Brienne's wave, signaled with lamp. "It's Brynden Tully," Brienne said, relief softening features. Jaime allowed a breath. Blackfish had slipped siege lines upriver and sailed at dusk. Timing more than luck. If Blackfish led men inland, they might flank Frey's, relieve North Wall. But gap between tides small. Inside keep, Catelyn and Sansa sheltered inside the Raven Tower, a squat dungeon converted for archives. Jaime found them there with Maester Vyman preparing physic bundles. Candlelight made the parchment walls glow. Catelyn's face was taut. "Casualties?" "Hi," Jaime said. "Dawn may break us unless Blackfish strikes. We must plan fallback." Sansa tightened shawl. "Where would we go?" "The roads." "See," Jaime answered. "Tully ships can run blockades better than walls withstand stones." Catelyn studied him, searching for duplicity. She found only exhaustion. "Can you open a path through Fry lines to the docks?" "Tonight, under storm, maybe." He gestured to Brienne. "We lead vanguard, small party. Mallister screens north curtain. While Frey's focus there, we slip south Sallyport." Brienne eyed Sansa. "Ride or foot?" "Boat," Jaime said. "One of Blackfish's skiffs. Oars quiet." Catelyn laid hand on Sansa's cheek. "Then we move before dawn." She looked to Jaime at last. "I will trust you a while longer, sir. Do not squander it." Rain eased near midnight, tapering to mist. Siege lines quieted save for occasional shout. A torch flaring bright then snuffed. Jaime donned dark cloak, stowed lion pommel sword beneath. Brienne changed surcoat for plain gray tabard. Sansa fitted in boiled leather jerkin, hair high. Den under hood. Catelyn wore chainmail under cloak. Wolf stitched on breast but muted. Mallister assigned 10 spearmen and 5 archers, volunteer sortie. Jaime led them through tunnels beneath granary, old smuggler's passage to a sluice at Watergate. Rats fled as they splashed knee-deep. Far ahead, tiny moonlit slit, the drain mouth above tidal flats. Jaime squeezed first, emerging behind a tumble of rocks outside curtain. He scanned. To right, fry campfires glimmered. Left lay slick causeway to docks, patrolled by pairs at intervals. He signaled. Party slithered out, pressed into shadows. Clouds parted enough to paint silver patches on river. Luck, gift, or curse? Quick now. They crept, crouched behind fish barrels stacked by abandoned stalls. Patrol neared, two Freys muttering about soaked boots. Jaime slid dagger, prepared to silence, but patrol turned inland, complaining of empty wineskins. He exhaled, motioned on. Docks 30 yards. Blackfish's men guarded slip with crossbows. Recognizing Brienne's height, one whistled thrush call. Jaime responded with the counter Blake had taught him years ago. Funny how memory served at sword point. They hurried to skiff. Blackfish himself stood by mast, black cloak wet, eyes like wet obsidian. 7 hells thought you'd never come, he grumbled. He clasped Catelyn's arm, eyes softening, then scanned Jaime. Kingslayer, hauling wolves now. Hauling trouble from Lion Pit, Jaime answered. They boarded 2 skiffs, passengers balanced by soldier oarsmen. Current swift. They pushed off silent, sliding under pier shadows. Behind, Seaguard's walls loomed dark, lanterns winking. Halfway across bay, torches erupted on shore. Fry sentries found the drain. Horns bleated, arrows streaked black water. But skiffs already beyond range. Mallister ballista answered, bolts arching into night. Fry camp stirred like ants kicked. Blackfish's flagship, a shallow draft galley, River Arrow, waited beyond sandbar. They scrambled aboard via lowered netting. Crew hauled lines, unfurled patched lateen. Oars dipped, tide favored seaward drift. On deck, wind cut but hearts eased. Jaime leaned on rail, watching lights recede. After hours the coast was a smear, storm clouds thinning. Stars blinked timidly. Catelyn approached. Seaguard may fall now. Mallister bought us time, Jaime said, and Blackfish might still relieve by morn. He faced her. But our path is north. Riverrun still stands. Behind her, Sansa dozed against a coil of rope, Brienne keeping vigil. Catelyn's voice gentled. She sleeps easier since the walls. Walls sometimes cage worse than comfort. Jaime flexed wrist where old manacle scars itched. I would know. Catelyn studied him long. You slew your king once to save a city, then slew your kin to save. She gestured at Sansa. Who do you seek to save now? He looked to horizon where first pale glow leaked. Myself, perhaps. The man I was meant to be before thrones and vows tangled. Redemption, she said. A costly luxury, he admitted. But I'll pay if coin be blood. Morning broke guilt. The galley hugged coast, sail reefed to avoid silhouette. Blackfish plotted course. West across Cape of Eagles to avoid Fry River patrol, then north up Red Fork to Rivulet where barges awaited. Days blurred, concealed daytime anchorages in reed-choked inlets, night runs under patchy moon. Jaime drilled spearmen on deck, kept arms limber. Brienne sparred him thrice, wooden swords clacking while crew cheered wagers. She won first bout, he second. Third ended draw, blades locked, both laughing despite bruises. That laugh startled him more than any kill. On the fourth dusk gulls wheeled overhead, sign of fertile shallows near Lord Harroway's town. Yet smoke columns smudged horizon. Bolton outriders sacked the market earlier. Charred barges bobbed. Blackfish changed plan. Row upriver's quieter braid. Risk grounding on shoals. Night rowers strained. Poles scraped mud. At dawn they reached willow-shrouded Oxbow where Robb Stark's outriders waited, gray cloaks blending with mist. Direwolf banners unfurled. Seeing Sansa safe drew cheers muffled for stealth. Escorted to shore camp. Tents low, fires smokeless. Robb emerged, armor pale with early dew, gray wind at heel. The direwolf sniffed Jaime, lips curling. Brienne stepped close, hand on hilt. Jaime held still. Gray wind huffed, backed off. The beast recognized sense older than blood. Robb embraced his mother, then sister, long silent holds. Sansa wept into his cloak. Jaime averted gaze, feeling intruder. When reunions ebbed, Lord Stark addressed Jaime. You kept faith, rare metal. Yet the realm still reckons for my men at Whispering Wood and now Seaguard. His voice bore weight of command tempered by sorrow. Jaime met his eyes. Name your price. My sword? My life? I have coin of both. Robb's lips thinned. War court will decide. But until my lords convene at Riverrun, you will ride under guard. Harm none and none will harm you. Fairer than most, Jaime said. Blackfish ordered march at dusk. By moon they crossed ridge above Derry lands, reaching Riverrun under cloak of trees. Fortress lights twinkled along triple walls. Banner of trout leaping rippled beside grey direwolf. House Stark now co-sigil after Edmure pledged full fealty. Inside Hall of Banners, lords crowded. Karstark remnants, Blackwood, Bracken, Mormont, 2 WN's iron-born turncloaks. Murmurs swelled as Jaime entered manacled. Iron this time. Great John Umber spat. Ricard Karstark's kin glared murder. Yet Sansa and Catelyn flanked him, silent shields. Council commenced. Robb presided from wooden chair set on dais below high seat. Subtle humility. He recounted Joffrey's death, Jaime's role, Sansa rescue. Arguments flared. Lord Karstark slammed fist.
Quincellier crime weg d'oubli.
Hang him, Swan of Blackwood countered. He saved Lady Stark, bloodsheet partly washed. Blackfish argued strategic, hostage value against Tywin. Young Robb listened, drummed fingers on wolfhead pommel of sword. When voices exhausted, he rose. 7 and 8 hells burn Westeros, he said. My father taught justice must serve realm, not vengeance. Ser Jaime stands accused of treason against crown he once swore, of murder of king who held his thrall. Yet that king slew innocents, butchered my kin, scarred the realm. Where scales balance, we weigh futures. He looked to Jaime. Ser, do you yield sword to my cause until war's end, swearing by all gods to harm no Stark, no Tully, no sworn river house, and to fight against those who'd break realm for seat of iron? Silence thick. Jaime felt Hall's eyes. Oath? He'd broken so many promises. Each new one forged a link. Yet he met Robb's steady gaze and felt something unbroken there. Not boy, not naive, but iron tempered by loss. He fell to one knee, chains clinking. I, Jaime of House Lannister, do so swear, while breath remains, my blade, counsel, and life stand pledged to King Robb Stark until peace hold or I am slain. Gasps rippled. Even Karstark froze. Robb nodded once. Then by direwolf and trout we accept. Remove his chains, yet keep watch. He's ally proven in blood, but still lion. Chains dropped. Jaime flexed wrists, bowed. That night Riverrun feasted restrained. Rationed stores but warm hearts. Musicians plucked lutes. Sansa sang softly an old Winterfell hymn. Jaime listened from bench near hearth, ale untouched. Brienne joined him. You meant that oath? She asked. He studied amber flames. Truthfully, as much truth as life left. He sipped. Perhaps I'll die for these wolves. Better than living as a beast devouring cubs. She smiled small. I'll hold you honest. I count on it. He lifted mug. She clinked. Sparks flew up chimney like newborn vows. Across widths of Westeros, word galloped. Kingslayer kneels to king in the north. Tywin's rage flared at Harrenhal. Goblets smashed, pages whipped. Yet measured piece of him understood. Cutting wolf head no longer enough. The lion pride bled within. He ordered ravens to Iron Throne. Hold Tommen safe, fortify capital. By Sellsword companies across narrow sea. War grew Hydra heads. Cersei drank nightshade and Arbor Gold cocktails, wailing for son lost and brother turned traitor. Qyburn, her new confidant, whispered of alchemies to twist fate. Wildfire caches deeper yet, poisons unnamed, beasts of steel and flame if coin enough. Hate grew laboratory. Stannis on Dragonstone saw omens. A lion bowing to wolf signified chaos to deliver light. Melisandre's flames danced figures of white walkers stirring as Southlings bicker. "The true war comes," she hissed. Stannis clenched jaw, preparing for march northward, not south. Prophecy tugging. In Dreadfort, Ramsay Bolton fingered flayed parchment signed by Frey envoys promising rewards for Riverrun's fall. He giggled, plotted night raids along Red Fork to draw Stark host out. And in cold far north, beyond the wall, horns blew 3 times. White eyes opened like lanterns. Winter marched south while men played crowns and daggers. Spring melted snows along King's Road when Robb's host broke camp from Riverrun. Jaime rode second column beside Brienne. His new surcoat bore half-lion half-wolf. Crude sewing job by a seamstress still wary. He wore no helm. Let all see the face of oaths reborn. Cheers were few, curses fewer now. Grudging respect sprouted. Objective, relieve Seaguard if still held, if not retake. Then strike twins before Freys consolidate. Open sea supply lines to Winterfell starved by war. Blackfish led vanguard scouting. On 4th March Day, pigeons alit with coated ribbons, Seaguard endured. Mal Lister repelled 3 assaults. Frey siege faltered as river approaches harried by Tully galleys.
Morale surged. Robb pushed pace.
Yet Shadow pursued. Bolton skirmishers stalked rear, harrying baggage, vanishing into woods. Jaime volunteered flank patrol, familiarity with Bolton sadism from whispers at King's Landing. Brienne accompanied. Near Maidenpool ruins they found flayed corpses nailed to oak. Mal Lister scouts captured earlier. Message carved, "The bastard bides." Jaime's gorge rose. That night by campfire Jaime confessed to Brienne stories of bastards' hunts with women's skins, told by Lannister spies. She listened, knuckles whitening around mug. "If such evil stalks," she said, "must be ended." He agreed. At Seaguard ramparts flew dire wolf and eagle banners. Relief force broke Frey siege within day. Black Walder killed in duel with Great John Umber. Bolton cavalry withdrew north. Inside battered keep Mal Lister greeted liberators, tears in weathered eyes. Burned sections smoldered but hearts beat defiant. Sansa aided maesters tending wounded, her gentle voice soothing groaning men. Jaime watched unnoticed, proud yet perplexed. Council met in tower chamber pocked by arrows.
Topic, Crossing-toi.
Frey treachery assured resistance. Jaime proposed daring. A night infiltration by river using Tully galleys up Green Fork to Underbridge Sluice, sabotage drawspans, open gates for main force. He'd studied bridge when captive. Robb considered. Blackfish endorsed. Plan forged. During preparations Jaime penned letter to Tommen. Child King distant behind Red Keep walls. Rule with kindness unlike brother. Trust Tyrion, he cares though warped. Remember mother loves beyond reason though grief blinds. Also remember I loved you before crowns. He sealed with blank wax, no lion sign. Gave to a trusted squire defecting south with merchants. Night of infiltration moon hid behind scudding clouds. 2 galleys, oars muffled, slipped along Green Fork. Jaime commanded first, Brienne second. Water smelled of mud and decay. At second mast, Blackfish timed currents. They drifted under looming shadow of twin towers joined by covered walkway. Lanterns dotted parapets but sluice arch remained dark. Rowers pulled short strokes, noses of galleys kissing mossy stone. Jaime led 6 men through water knee-deep inside drainage tunnel, scaling chains. Atop, grate yielded to pry bar. He emerged in storeroom stacked with grain sacks. Guard snored. Dagger kissed throat silence. They donned spare Frey cloaks, advanced to lever house above portcullis. 2 Frey sentries dicing lost coins as Jaime's men entered. One looked up. Brienne's team arrived opposite door. Fight swift, pommel knocks, gag to mouth. Signal torch waved twice. Outside, galleys drifted back. In darkness main Stark host crossing shallows below upstream place. Jaime hauled release chain. Drawspan creaked downward. Wind howled, masking noise. Alarm bell clanged only when gray wind howled within courtyard. Chaos exploded. Stark spearmen flooded ramp, shouting the North remembers. Fry soldiers stumbled half-armed. By sunrise, outer yards seized. Black Walder's brother Ryman surrendered in Great Hall, weeping. Robb spared most small folk but ordered Fry commanders to cells pending justice. Raven to Riverrun summoned Lord Tribunal. Heartbeat of war changed again. Bastard Bolton now exposed on wrong riverbank between wolves and lions. Tywin's armies south forced to reckon new front. Whisper spread. Kingslayer led gate capture. Karstark descent flared, some called Robb fool for trusting Jaime. At council, Karstark cousin Eddard argued Jaime deserved axe. Jaime attended unarmed, stood before lords. I killed to free realm from madness, he said. I'll die if needed, but not before Bolton's bastard flays more kids or wildfire veins again. I ask chance to end monsters my house sheltered. He met each eye final on Robb. Grant me that blade. Mutterings settled. Robb declared trial of deeds postponed until war's end. Jaime's leash short but free hand in field. Karstark lords withdrew, grim. Weeks later host marched north along the Blue Fork, hunting bastard. Bolton forces melted into forest, leaving grisly displays. Scouts located his camp near Oldstone's ruin. Battle at dawn. Jaime commanded cavalry wedge with Greatjon, crashed through ranks. Ramsay fled, pursued by hounds ironically. In shattered sepulchre of Oldstones, Jaime cornered him. Ramsay laughed, brandishing flaying knife. Fight brutal, Ramsay nimble, knife darting, Jaime weary, yet resolve iron. He parried, riposted, sliced bastard's thigh. Ramsay slipped on moss, Jaime disarmed, boot to throat. You'll flay no more, Jaime said, and ended him. War songs would later tell Kingslayer redeemed by slaying bastard of Bolton. Rumor added he spared Bolton's camp followers, freed women captives. Truth simple, he'd seen too much rot. Victory sealed Karstark grudges. Blood paid by Bolton. Their thirst for lion blood slackened, if slightly.
Robb's coalition steadied.
Tywin's forces, hearing of Bolton loss and twins taken, withdrew toward Golden Tooth, fortifying passes. Winter's first snow-dusted shoulders when Raven arrived. King's Landing riots uncontained, small folk starving. Cersei deposed by Tyrell-backed council naming Marjorie regent for Tommen. Tyrion missing. The Iron Throne cracks spiderwebbed. At dusk campfire, Jaime read the scrap twice. Brienne sat opposite, sharpening Oathkeeper. Your family unravels, she said gently, as all threads must when pulled by greedy fingers. He folded note. The realm may mend in pieces. She watched sparks rise. And you, an old needle, perhaps, stitching where I once severed. He smiled rueful. Sansa approached, cloak thick with snowflakes. Lady Brienne, Ser Jaime, Robb calls. Word from White Harbor. Ships sight whites on ice. White eyes of winter again. War of Thrones dwarfed by War of Dawn. Robb assembled hall. Plans shifted. Stark army march north to bolster wall. Leave Riverlands secure. Jaime volunteered. Memory of blue eyes beyond wall. Bran told him about once when boy. Robb consented. Winter's war needs every sword, even lion. Journey to wall harsh. Snow knee-deep, wind knifed. Yet camaraderie grew. Men sang songs mixing wolf and lion. Jaime saved Karstark youth from warg bear. Brienne nursed Lannister scout wounded. New tapestry woven. At Castle Black they found knights watch thin. Jon Snow commanding in black furs. Reunion of wolves joyful but brief. White Walker host glimmered on horizon like storm of glass. In War Council inside Shield Hall's flickering lamplight, Jaime offered strategy gleaned from wildfire engineers. Create wall of dragonglass. Seeded oil trenches to channel undead into kill zone where Valyrian blades waited. Jon studied him, eyes gray like storm seas. You ever fight dead men? No, Jaime admitted. But I fought madness. It follows similar rules, burn the root. Plan accepted. Nights bled into days. They dug trenches, poured black oil, embedded dragonglass shards. When Walker tempests hit, flames roared green where pots of wildfire deployed. Crackling, shrieking things of legend. Undead swarmed. but narrowed lanes allowed defenders to hold. Jaime fought atop ring wall, left foot numb, one shoulder gnawed by white before Brienne cleaved it. He killed dozens, arm aching, blood freezing on mail. In midst of carnage, he glimpsed Night King astride undead bear, arrows futile. Jon charged on horseback, longclaw blazing. Jaime could only carve path for others. 3 nights they held. At dawn of 4th, horns of R'hllor acolytes sounded. Stannis' reinforced host arrived, red priestesses wielding fire magic. Living pushed undead back to Frostfang foothills. Walker ranks thinned. Night King withdrew. Victory provisional, true winter on way, but heart soared. In the aftermath, Jaime sat on wall's edge, staring south where thin sun glimmered. Brienne joined, arm in sling. Still think redemption luxury? He shook head. It's necessity. Realm needs men who've crawled through muck to teach others smell of rot. She chuckled. Night preacher now? Perhaps. He flexed aching hand. When war ends, I might rebuild. Teach squires honor means more than oaths to crowns. And Cersei, her voice gentle. She chose her path. I'll grieve, then let ghosts rest. Below them, Jon Snow and Robb Stark clasped forearms. Brothers reunited under broken sky. Sansa tended wounded. Catelyn thanked Red Priestess. Direwolf howled triumph. Jaime breathed icy air, felt lungs hurt with living. Night clouds parted. Stars glittered, millions tiny hopes. I once threw a boy to silence secrets, he whispered. Now I lift swords to guard them. Funny. Brienne smiled. Not funny, full circle. She stood. Come. Print this story in living deeds, not words. He rose, joint stiff, but spirit lighter. Together they walked along parapet, 2 tall shadows merging with line of watchfires. Wolf and lion side by side, bearing scars into dawn neither had expected to see. Forging legend none could have written when first chains rattled in Riverrun's bowels beneath soft rain and whispers of treason. Snow drove sideways across the heights of the wall, its shards glittering in the torch glow like a million broken promises. The storm had scoured most footprints from the ramparts by the time dawn seeped over the Frostfangs, and with it came a silence so profound that even the ravens kept their counsel. Jaime Lannister braced gloved hands on the ice-slick Merlin, peering down into the blue-white waste that stretched unbroken to the very rim of the world. Somewhere out there, beneath a skin of drifted snow, the corpses of yesterday's fallen lay still, whites and men together, locked in the same frozen hush until the next wind uncovered them. He could still smell the odd, acrid tang the White Walkers left behind, a scent like iron filings dragged across slate. It clung to everything. Cloaks, fletchings, the canvas of the supply wagons, the insides of men's mouths, even the wildfire pits now black, kenned and glassy where green flame had roared, could not burn it away. He wondered if it would stain Westeros forever, a quiet reminder that the true war had never cared for sigils or oaths. Down in the courtyard, Night's Watch brothers shoveled ice into carts, stamping stiff boots between loads. Their faces were gaunt, hollowed by too many breathless nights, but their spines stayed straight, shoulders squared. Jaime could not decide if it was duty or sheer numbness that kept them upright. Perhaps both. Jon Snow moved among them in a plain black cloak. No crown, no brooch of office, only a battered long sword at his hip. He paused to speak to each brother. A word here, a clasped arm there. They listened with the kind of weary respect a soldier grants another who has suffered the same horrors. A length of new white cloth fluttered over the Lord Commander's balcony. The direwolf of Stark quartered with the black shield of the Watch. 2 nights passed. The garrison had sown it by torchlight, a silent acknowledgement that the wall's ancient vow now shared blood with the North. Somewhere inside the keep, Robb Stark conferred with Jon and Stannis about the next move. Their voices, muffled by timber and stone, carried the brittle undertone of urgency. Rations, dragonglass stores, how far south the first refugee columns had staggered before the snows swallowed the King's Road again. Jaime stepped back from the parapet, flexed numb fingers. They still ached where the White's frozen jaw had clamped through boiled leather, teeth scraping bone. Maester Eamon's apprentice had smeared the punctures with a pungent salve of pine resin and vinegar, promising no rot would set in. It helped, though every heartbeat pulsed a dull reminder of death's nearness. He rotated his wrist until pain flared, then lowered his arm. Pain meant the hand still lived. He turned toward the southwestern tower, where thin smoke leaked from a vent. Blacksmith Donal Noy's old forge, now commandeered by Tormund Giantsbane to melt down half a wagon of captured dragonglass spearheads. Jaime's breath fogged before him as he descended the creaking stair, boots ringing on frozen steps. Each clamor echoed along the ice tunnel, swallowed at last by the roar of bellows and the clang of iron on stone. Inside, heat slapped him sudden and savage. Sparks spun from the anvil where Tormund's broad hammer beat a shard of black glass into the split of a spear's haft. The process seemed as much sorcery as craft. Raw material brittle as sins, yet under measured blows it fused into a razor edge that shimmered violet in the forge light. Around the giant raider bustled a half-dozen ironborn smiths who had bent knee to Stannis after their failure at Deepwood Motte. The men moved with brisk discipline, heated fragments in brick ovens banked with charcoal, quenched them in brine tubs that hissed like insulted cats, and passed the tempered pieces down a line where Night's Watch recruits lashed them to ash hafts. Brienne of Tarth stood near the doorway, supervising. Her left arm remained bound in a sling, but her right hand, broad and steady, guided a recruit's clumsy knotwork until the leather strips lay smooth and tight. She noticed Jaime and inclined her head, sweat-dampening gold hair that had worked free of its tie. "Another 300 spearheads finished," she said over the din. "If luck holds, we'll arm half your river lancers before moonrise." "They aren't my lancers," he reminded her, though the correction held no heat. "But they'll be grateful all the same." She studied him a moment longer, perhaps noting the fresh bandage beneath his glove, then returned to the recruit's hitches. Jaime watched a while, the way her lips moved with soundless instruction, the patient nod when the lad finally copied her motions. The respect in the boy's eyes seemed unforced, the sort any squire might hold for a knight 10 times more celebrated. It struck Jaime how rarely she had been afforded such unalloyed regard in the courts of men. He left the forge, stepping back into the cold like a pilgrim into penance. Snow had lightened, lazy flakes spinning in eddies. To the east, the sky bruised indigo where clouds parted over the Bay of Seals. Somewhere beyond that horizon the narrow sea waited, restless and jade-dark. Beyond that, Essos, where smart sellswords might still pretend dragons were legend and winter only a storyteller's threat. Part of Jaime's heart tugged toward such imagined warmth. The larger part refused. He found the War Council in the old shield hall, around a slab of cedar that served as map table. Jon Snow traced a gloved finger from Eastwatch to Queen's Crown and down the King's Road. Robb stood opposite, forearms braced, eyes shadow-ringed with lack of sleep. To his right towered Stannis Baratheon, jaw clenched, gnarled hands flat. Between them sat Melisandre, red silks against the hall's gray gloom, her gaze distant, as though watching fires only she could see. Gray wind lay by the door. The direwolf's ribs still rose and fell, but slowly. A ragged gash scored his flank, stitched with black gut string. He opened one yellow eye as Jaime entered, then settled again with a grunt. Few seats remained, and none felt his by right, but Jon waved him closer. "Ser Jaime," he said, voice hoarse. "You know the stretch between the Queen's Crown ruins and the last hearth better than anyone living, Bolton or otherwise." "Seat." Jaime slid onto a bench. The map lay pocked with pebble markers. Green for wildling support bands, black for watch garrisons, silver for Northmen outriders, white chips for confirmed White Walker positions. Too many white. Stannis drummed 2 fingers on the cedar. "We drew their commanders west by torching the bog villages. That buys scant days. My scouts north of Long Barrow count 3,000 dead in that vanguard, reanimating faster than we torch them." Robb rubbed eyes. "Our fire trenches hold lines here and here for the present, but winter storms break gaps each night. We need to strengthen Castle Serwyn and Moat Cailin before the next surge, or the south will see them at their gates." Melisandre's fine crimson eyebrows arched. Fire alone cannot win the dawn. Azor Ahai must wield Lightbringer against the great other when the true night descends. Stannis's mouth thinned. He did not contradict her, but neither did he elaborate. Across the table, Jon Snow frowned at the floor, perhaps weighing prophecy against the tangible work of shovels and flint. Jaime cleared his throat. Dragonglass for every man won't happen by sunrise, but steel still kills whites if you hack them down twice. The walkers command from behind. Cut those. He lifted a white chip, flicked it aside. The rest lose purpose for a moment. That moment is life. Robb straightened. My lances can ride the cut. Strike for the walker line when they next press the eastern trench. Too exposed, Stannis growled. Cavalry charge across broken ice?
Suicide.
Better we lure them onto the lakes where the crust won't bear weight. Jon gestured at the map. There's a narrow plain north of Long Lake, bog enough to swallow a host. If we feign a withdrawal from the trench, they follow, we fire the ice behind us with dragonglass oil. Shatters beneath them. Jaime considered. You'll need a rearguard to bait them close. Knights and foot both. Volunteers, Jon said flatly. Brienne stepped from the doorway. I will ride. All eyes turned. Many in the hall had not seen her enter. Her presence rippled like sudden wind. She still wore her sling, but Oathkeeper hung at her good hip, bright as sunrise painted in gold and red. She met Stannis's opaque stare, then Robb's wary one, and finally Jon's searching gray. I broke my oath to Renly when he died, she said, voice steady. I will not break this one. Robb's mouth quirked, not quite a smile. One night does not a vanguard make. Jaime laid a finger on the table edge. He did not raise his voice. Where she rides, I ride. That drew a sharper ripple. Some lords muttered. Umber, Mormont, the Karstark nephew with the patched eye. Stannis studied Jaime as though measuring gallows rope. Yet Jon only inclined his head, as if he had expected nothing less. Then we'll need 300 more, the young Lord Commander said. I'll call the watches best. Grey Wind's ears twitched. Outside, a bell tolled twice. A warning that supplies from Molestown wagons had arrived. No threat. Robb rolled his shoulders. Prepare. The night will be long. 3 hours later, Jaime found Sansa at the rookery, a letter clutched half-folded against her chest. Ravens stirred in straw baskets along the ledge, croaking. Snow filtered through the arrow slit behind her, dusting red hair like frost on copper leaves. Bad news? He asked softly. She startled, then managed a small, brave smile. News at all seems rare enough. She unfolded the parchment. Lady Marjorie writes that King's Landing keeps bread lines around the dragon pit. Tyrell granaries are full, but the Crownlands roads are frozen mud. She begs grain ships sail from White Harbor, yet the sea lanes crawl with corsairs flying crowns and krakens alike. Jaime exhaled. War breeds its own vermin. Everything devours everything, Sansa said. I used to love stories about gallant knights and true queens. Now I think perhaps stories are just casks. When you crack them open, rot spills. He leaned on the lintel. Stories shift, that's all. New ink writes over the old. Maybe yours is set to outshine the rot. She glanced sideways. And yours? I'm still blotting ink. He hesitated. If the worst happens tomorrow, if the trenches fail, you and your mother must reach the boats at Eastwatch. Follow Blackfish's banners. He has coins stowed for bribes and a galley swift enough to outrace any slaver or sell sail. She refolded the letter. The worst is always happening, but I will remember. Their eyes met. For once he saw neither the wary hostage nor the broken child who had been paraded before Joffrey's throne. He saw a young woman forged in harsher steel than any battlefield knight. She nodded once more, then turned to coax a raven onto her wrist, whispering soft Valyrian to soothe its wings. Near midnight, thin horns thrummed over the ice flats. 2 long notes, 1 short. The walker host was on the move. Camps along the trenches erupted in flurry. Snow had stopped, sky cleared to a brittle canopy of stars. and with the clearing came a chill so intense it felt like the world drawing a blade against the sky's throat. Frost steamed from every breath, armored joints squealed when men bent. Jaime mounted a dun courser from the Eastwatch stables, checked girth. The horse's breath clouded in moonlight. Around him armored riders formed, Knights of the Vale under bronze Yon Royce with runed plate gleaming, Blackwood outriders with weirwood leaves emblazoned on shields, Mormont spears astride shaggy mountain garrons. At their fore rode Brienne, helm painted a simple yellow field. No flashy sigil, just light. Jon Snow clasped forearms with Robb beside the South Fire Trench. "On your signal," he said, "we'll hold the western breach." Robb swung into saddle, gray wind limping beside. "If the gods are kind, we meet at dawn by the Black Oak." "If they aren't kind," Jon replied. "Dawn still comes." They parted. Jaime spurred after Brienne eastward. Between ridges the ground smeared into whiteness unbroken until the first trench. A gash 40 feet long, lined with black glazed pits of burnt oil and glass now dormant. Beyond, wooden palings rose knee-high, already half-buried in drift. The vanguard trotted single file through a causeway gate left open by the watch. Once clear, a brother toppled the crossbar behind them and began trailing rope wicks soaked in lamp oil along the ditch crest. Under a sky slivered with faint green aurorae, they advanced at a measured walk. Hoofbeats crunching snow were the only rhythm. No one spoke. Even Tormund's usual japes had gone silent. The great wildling lumbered on foot beside Brienne in borrowed plate, a long iron spear in hand and a bag of hips-wrapped dragonglass blades jingling against his belt. After perhaps a mile, Jaime caught a faint, bluish glow pulsing on the northern horizon. Tiny, as if stars walked upon earth. He sucked breath. The walkers had fanned wide, their eerie lantern eyes visible even at distance. Frost eddies flowed ahead of them like living smoke. Brienne raised a fist. The column halted. They formed two ranks, spears forward, lances couched, archers knocking dragonglass arrowheads behind. The plain ahead dipped into a shallow basin, its surface a frozen crust over floodwater. Jaime's breath rasped in his helm. This was the ground Jon had chosen. Brittle ice, only a foot or two thick above treacherous depths. The plan required nerve. When the walkers saw prey, they'd drive the dead into a rush. The vanguard would feign panic, while south along pre-marked stakes. Once the undead mass thickened on ice, watch sappers hiding in reed pits would ignite their buried flasks of obsidian-mixed wildfire. Ice would shatter, dead drown, walkers forced onto shore where spears waited. Jaime unclasped helm a moment, dragged in frigid air, then fastened again. Beside him, Brienne's visor lowered. He heard her whisper something. Prayer, perhaps. He wished fervently it would be heard. The glow grew stronger. Shapes emerged. Gaunt silhouettes of wights, some armored, some wearing ragged skins, others little more than bones rattling. Their eyes gleamed cerulean, reflecting starlight and something deeper. Behind strode figures taller, leaner, armored in frost-forged plates that rippled like moonlit water. Their swords looked spun from ice and hate. Trumpets, stark, booming, sounded from the watch lines behind, an answer to the creeping cold. In the vanguard line, spines stiffened, hooves sidestepped, riders whispered calming murmur to mounts. Then the dead broke into a charge. At first it was almost silent, just the scrape of 1,000 limbs moving across crust. Halfway down the slope, sound bloomed. Cracking ice, clatter of bone, keening moans like wind in broken reeds. An avalanche of death hurried toward living flesh. Brienne raised her blade. Signal! Fell, where hearth fires still blazed under broken timbers patched with new oak. The castle smelled of smoke and horse and boiling broth, of life insisting on itself. Sansa greeted them at the gate, cloak spattered with soot from kitchens where she had baked loaves for the wounded. Bran Stark waited in a wicker chair near the weirwood, eyes white as milk glass. Gone someplace only ravens knew. Mira Reed stood guard beside him, spear upright. Jaime crossed the yard amid cheers and tears, and the sobs of mothers finding sons among the wounded train. He felt like an imposter walking someone else's story. Even the battered section of battlements, where once Theon Greyjoy's Ironborn had hung children for traitors, seemed to watch him with mute verdict. Inside the Great Hall, Robb recounted the Basin victory to assembled gentry. Glover, Hornwood, Castle, Manderley envoys, men from every faint surviving banner. It sounded like legend already. Firestorms, drowned dead, the triple death of the Ice Kings. Torches flickered on tapestries scorched during earlier sackings. The crowd pressed close to hear. When Robb finished, maesters toasted the living and poured ale for the hall floor in honor of the fallen. Jaime drank little. He preferred the edge of sobriety. He found a quiet alcove where snowmelt dripped from a cracked murder hole, watched candlelight ripple. Sansa approached with a platter of black bread and northern cheese. "Eat," she ordered, tone more lady than girl. He accepted a heel. "Your brother carries kinghood like a peddler's pack, too heavy for one back. He won't lay it down." She leaned against the stone arch. "None of us can. Not until the long night ends." He tore bread. "Long night ends when dragons wake, so the songs say." A new voice answered, "One has woken already." Melisandre emerged from Hall's shadow, rubies glinting like coal hearts. "It walks not on wings but in flesh, bearing iron, seeking light in its own virtue." Sansa stiffened. Jaime merely raised brows. "And who is this wingless dragon?" he drawled. The Red Woman studied him with eyes both kind and frightening. "Many fires lie ahead. Some I can glimpse, others devour even prophecy. But know this, Lightbringer is not always a sword. Sometimes it is a man. Or a woman," Sansa said quietly. Melisandre inclined her head. "Or a woman," she agreed, her gaze flicking towards Sansa's hands, small but strong around the platter. Jaime chewed, thought of the basin's green inferno, of Brienne's blade parting cold flesh, of Jon's quiet steadiness, Robb's desperate resolve, Stannis's rigid sense of fate. Which among them might be the ember she hinted? He swallowed the coarse bread. "In my experience," he said, "prophecy tastes like ashes when the feast is cleared." Melisandre's lips curved. "Then keep your mouth from prophecy and your hands ready for steel." She glided away. Sansa watched her leave, shivering though the hall was warm. "I still hear Joffrey's laugh in my dreams," she confessed. "When I wake, I wonder if the world can ever be cleansed of him." "It can't," Jaime said, voice gentle. "But it can drown him in better deeds." She nodded, eyes glistening. "You have changed," she said. He glanced toward Brienne, just entering the hall door, sling gone, arm bound tight but free. She laughed at something Tormund shouted, cheeks flushed. "I had help." Winter tightened over the next fortnight, locking rivers, biting fingers, gnawing hooves. Yet each day watchmen atop Winterfell's ring wall reported fewer blue-bright eyes beyond the treeline. Ravens from the Eyrie spoke of storm-born avalanches burying walker paths in the mountains of the moon. Letters from Riverrun told of only scattered white packs on the Green Fork, easily scattered by flaming pitch. At Dragonstone, Stannis' fleet prepared to sail north with Tyrell grain and Baratheon blacksmith-made dragonglass ballistae, an armada of fire and stone. But the Night King remained unseen, his true legions perhaps drawn south by some unknowable purpose. Jon worried they had misread their enemy, that the walkers would skirt east entirely, into the Bight, breach the neck while the North's strength stayed bottled behind the wall ruins. Plans shifted daily. On the 21st night after the Basin, Jaime sat in the Godswood of Winterfell before the Heart Tree, moon silvering the red leaves. The weirwood's face wept sap that looked black in chill shimmer. Nearby, Bran Stark breathed slow in his chair, white eyes turned inward. A raven perched on his arm. Jaime half expected Bran to speak, but he sat silent. After a time, the boy's eyes rolled back to Brown. He seemed smaller, frilier, and older than his 14 years. "You pushed me once," Bran said, voice soft. "But now you carry your own fall." Jaime felt no sting. "If debt weighed coin," he replied, "I'd crush the world's back." Bran's gaze focused somewhere just left of Jaime's face. "It isn't coin," is thread. The more you knot, the thicker the rope, until rope becomes bridge or noose. Which will you weave? Jaime tilted head. Do you see my end, three-eyed raven? I see doors, Bran said, and the choices before them. You have walked through many believing none open behind. They do. They always do. A breeze shook red leaves. One drifted onto Jaime's knee. He lifted it, veins glowing where moonlight pressed. And which door next? He asked. The one only you can hold shut, Bran answered. When the ice dragon wakes. Jaime frowned. Ice dragon. But Bran's eyes had clouded again. Raven cawing softly. Jaime set the leaf upon the boy's blanket and left. Later that night, while he bedded in a corner of the old maester's turret, footsteps woke him. Brienne entering, carrying his helm under arm. You spend too much time alone, she said, easing down opposite. I spent years with only my guilt for company, he said. Now it seems improper to dismiss an old acquaintance. She chuckled, a gentle sound. Firelight from a single brazier lit her freckles like gold dust. Tomorrow Jon rides to Queen's Crown again. He needs 5 nights to anchor his flank. I told him you'd come. Presumptuous. Predictable, she corrected. He nodded, touched haft of sword leaning by his bedding. When this ends, he said. What becomes of 2 nights forged in winter? She thought. We build what winter tried to break. Roads, bridges, vows that hold. And if peace fails, then we fight, but for better reasons. He reached across, brushed her hand. Her fingers, roughened by hilt calluses, curled around his. No pledge spoken, yet something ancient and new passed between them. Trust that had been unimaginable when chains first bound him in Riverrun's dark. Outside, wind howled. He closed eyes. For the first time in many years, the dark felt less like a tomb and more like a cradle in which morning might indeed rise. Morning did rise, rose red. The message reached Winterfell at first light. Eastwatch beacon aflame, smoke pillar visible leagues. A single rider, frostbitten, staggered into courtyard with eyes wild. An ice dragon, he rasped. It tore the sea ice. It comes over the last river. Panic flared across ramparts. Bells pealed thrice, thrice again. Jaime hurried to Great Hall where Jon, Robb, Stannis, and their captains gathered around parchment maps hastily updated. Viserion, Jon murmured, turned at the wall breach last year. We feared, but no sign until now. Stannis scowled. 1 dragon of cold is worth 10,000 dead. My catapults bear dragonglass bolts, but they'll need anchor. Jaime stepped forward. A rider could draw it south along the weeping water. Thin ice, steep cliffs. Ground-based weapons wait above valley mouth. Robb's brow creased. A rider on what sare? No horse outruns wings. A dragon, Jaime said. The room stilled. He felt the weight of every gaze. Queen Daenerys' eggs at Dragonstone. Rumor says one hatched in flames last moon. If Melisandre's visions hold, perhaps another shell cracks now. Stannis' eyes flared, part rage, part belief. You suggest we pit newborn fire against ancient ice? I suggest we try, Jaime said. Or Winterfell burns blue. Silence, then the rustle of maps as Jon folded the largest. Send Raven to Dragonstone. Summon the egg. If hatchling lives, we build perch near the valley. He looked to Jaime. And if no dragon comes? Jaime drew breath, felt weight of leaf bran had laid on his knee. Then the rider becomes bait alone. Sometimes doors close. Someone must hold them. Brienne's hand grasped his elbow. Her voice was low but iron. Not alone. Ravens departed. Men worked without rest. Trenching cliffs, rolling scorpions into narrow defile, coating dragonglass bolts with a glaze of pitch to resist cold. Women boiled cauldrons of tar. Smiths forged harpoons. In the yard, Oakheart carpenters erected a tall lattice tower the height of a small keep. Jaime's perch. At its top they laid iron braziers, stored sacks of primed wildfire. On the third dusk, Sansa joined him atop battlements. Ravens returned from Dragonstone. One egg hatched, yes, but the creature is sickly, wings small. Maester Crescent doubts it can fly far. He nodded. Then the bait plan holds. She swallowed. My mother asks you to leave command to others. You owe her daughters enough life already. I owe myself, he replied gently. A debt only I may pay. Tears welled but did not fall. She squeezed his hand and left. Night came bruised purple. Snow ceased, replaced by a glimmering mist. Jaime donned new plate, plain, unadorned. Brienne tightened buckles. Neither spoke of tomorrow. Before dawn, horns screamed from watchposts. A roar answered, deep and echoing through valley. Jaime hurried to tower. Far north, a shape glided, wings of translucent ice, eyes twin moons of frozen light. With each beat, cold gusts rolled, whitening pines in instant rhyme. He climbed rungs 2 at a time, emerging onto platform where a single horse, gray mare flank lashed with furs, waited tethered. He mounted, brandished torch. Below, Brienne and a column of 50 volunteers rode to valley mouth, dragging scorpions. The ice dragon saw flame. It veered, descending. Jaime urged mare into canter along the narrow path. Wind knifed. Behind, the dragon's cry shook snow from cliffs. They reached river shelf, a frozen serpentine pool between crags. Jaime spurred onto ice, torch high. The mare slipped, regained footing. The dragon hovered above, frost sloughing from wings like shattered mirrors. It inhaled. Air crystallized around its jaws. Jaime flung torch at a tar pit. Fire blossomed. The dragon recoiled. It loosed a jet of pale flame. No, not flame. A beam of pure cold, shards and wind. Fire died in instant. Ice spidered. He guided mare toward next marker, wildfire cask under thin snow. At 50 paces he dismounted. Slashed rope fuse, struck flint. Spark failed. Dragon screeched, swooped. A rumble high right. Boulders cascaded as stark sappers toppled a loaded wagon. Rocks smashed wing, unbalancing the beast. It crashed, sliding across ice toward wildfire cask. Jaime Dove rolled, pain searing his shoulder. The dragon's bulk crushed cask. Green erupted beneath its belly. For a heartbeat, jade fire warred with frost, steam billowing. The dragon thrashed, tail smashing tower leg. Jaime's tower shook. From valley mouth Brienne's scorpions loosed. Dragonglass bolts, thick as spears, streaked. One penetrated joint where wing met torso, sinking deep into shining hide. The wound puffed black vapor. The dragon screamed, sound like glaciers cracking. Another bolt struck skull just behind eye. Staggered. Jaime staggered too, ears ringing. He seized fallen spear, dragonglass tip. As dragon lifted head, he sprinted, vaulted onto broken scale ridge, climbed along neck slippery with frost. Tremors bucked him, but he clung, each breath searing lungs. At ridge crest, he saw the bolt shaft jutting. He rammed spear into wound, twisting until glass bit deeper. Blue glow in dragon's eyes flickered. It lurched, wings spasming. Jaime leapt clear, hit ice, slid. The creature collapsed, steam rising where blood met frozen air. His chest heaved once, twice, then stilled. Ice fire flickered out. Silence, broken only by crackling wildfire patches. Brienne raced over, helm gone, eyes wide. Behind her, men cheered raggedly, some weeping. Jaime lay on back, snowflakes landing on face. He laughed. A short, unbelieving sound. Brienne knelt, helped him sit. His shoulder bled where earlier wound reopened, but he felt little pain. Doors, he murmured, remembering Bran. Held or closed? Closed, she whispered, trembling relief. Sun-crested ridge, bathing valley in amber. Steam swirled like spirits returning skyward. The dead dragon's form began to melt, scales collapsing into glittering ice shards. By evening it would be a mere mound, by spring a memory. They burned its heart separately, on logs soaked with oil and prayer. Melisandre chanted while snow hissed into vapor around pyre. She claimed some darkness cracked that dawn, though not yet shattered. In the week that followed, no walker sign appeared north or south. Ravens from as far as Deepwood reported only corpses now lifeless, brittle in unmoving heaps. The Night King, whatever remained of him, had withdrawn beyond the shivering sea, taking last magic of winter with him for a time. At Winterfell, life insisted again. Smiths mended gates, children skated on ponds, bells rang for marriages postponed too long by war. Lord Manderley's cooks baked fat-crusted pies, and for one feast even Grey Wind managed to thump tail beside table. Robb abdicated war title, proclaiming himself Warden of the North under King Tommen's renewed charter, negotiated by Tyrion, who had surfaced from the chaos as new hand, wearing scars and wry smile. Starks accepted southern autonomy in exchange for Tyrell grain roads and an oath that no Lannister army would march north again without wolf consent. Jaime met his sister in silent dreams, but not in life. Cersei had fled before Tyrell ascendancy. Whispers said across the narrow sea, perhaps to Volantis where Sell-Sail captains still revered old Valyria. He felt grief, but it was an old grief, diluted by distance and deeds. One clear afternoon, in the Godswood where red leaves now shone against clean sky, Brienne found him carving a small wooden lion. She raised brow. "For the boy I once was," he explained, placing it at heart tree root beside a carved wolf and stag other visitors had left. "He'd be astonished by who stands here. He might be proud," she said. He considered. Perhaps. They walked the perimeter, snow crunching. Birds sang tentative notes, strange after long quiet. Outside wall, wagons queued for southbound return. Vale Knights, Baratheon spearmen, Tyrell envoys come north to trade. Life again. At the gate, Sansa waited with parchment. "From Bravos," she said. "Iron Bank offers reconstruction loans to Winterfell." Jaime snorted. "Bankers see profit in any spring." Sansa smiled warm and sad, then turned to Brienne. "My brother would honor you before the court tonight. I expect you both at the dais." Brienne flushed. "Ser Jaime is no northern lord." "He's more than enough," Sansa said and strode away. Evening candles lit the hall. Banners of direwolf, trout, crowned stag, even lion now hung in equal measure. Robb stood in fresh gray doublet embroidered with white weirwood blossoms. Beside him, Jon Snow wore black cloak trimmed with silver, long claw at hip, yet eyes always to doors, wary still. Robb raised horn of ale. "Friends, winter breaks. We owe thanks to many, but one name stands out tonight." He beckoned.
Ser Jaime Lannister.
Murmurs filled hall. Jaime walked forward. Karstark nephew who once snarled at him now nodded. Great John shouted approval. Mormont women thumped spear butts. Robb spoke. "Ser Jaime knelt as enemy, rose as brother. He taught us fire may come from unlikely steel. For valor at the ice basin, for slaying the dragon of frost, I name him Shield of the North, with lands at the shore of Cape Kraken, and bid him stand as knight in my hearth whenever he wills." Cheers. Jaime bowed, stunned. Lands meant little, but the gesture carved deep. He caught Brienne's eye. She beamed, tears bright. Robb continued. "Yet every shield needs its mirror. Lady Brienne of Tarth. Step forth." She did, halting, face aflame. Robb drew sword. "Kneel." She knelt awkwardly on injured leg. "For unwavering honor, indomitable courage, and heart true, I dub thee Lady Knight of the Winter Guard. Rise, Ser Brienne Starkshield." Rusty tradition melted. A woman knighted by a northern lord before southerners and wildlings alike. Applause thundered. Jaime's throat tightened with pride deeper than any tourney victory. That night, under stars, he asked Brienne to walk. They paused by the first crocus sprouting through thawing ground, small, absurdly brave. "You once asked what becomes of two knights forged in winter," he said. "Perhaps they guard spring." Brienne touched the flower gently. "Spring will need guarding." They clasped hands. The future spread before them. Not simple, not safe, but stitched together by threads of debts repaid and vows renewed. A bridge stronger than any noose. And somewhere beyond horizon, Where green cloaks rustled and small folk tilled thawed earth, new stories began. Tales of a kingslayer turned shield-bearer, of a maid knight whose blade shone with morning, of wolves who forgave lions and together built a world no longer ruled by iron chairs but by the memory of what winter might take if allowed. Stories, Jaime thought, might yet cradle truth instead of rot. It would depend on the ink and on the hands guiding every next line. Cold lingered in Winterfell's courtyards long after the snows began to recede, clinging to the stones as though unwilling to surrender all the pain they had absorbed. Jaime could feel it like a memory in his bones each dawn when he walked the ramparts in silence, letting the crisp air scour the cobwebs of dreams from his mind. Most mornings he found Brienne already there, silhouetted against pale rose light breaking over the towers, hands clasped behind her back, watching frost steam from the distant fields where new-sprung wheat dared the season. Neither had much taste for words before sunup. A nod, a softer set of the shoulders, spoke enough. Work gangs shoveled slush from the training yard, and the clang of hammers rang day and night as blacksmiths raced to mend helms and half-splintered spear hafts. The walls creaked with the weight of fresh timbers driven into the inner palisade. Kitchens boiled soup thick with barley and dried boar. The smell curled through corridors, welcome as any prayer. Riders came and went, scores of them, from scattered holdfasts and watchposts, bearing news written in raw faces as much as ink. Raiding parties of shattered wights found frozen where they fell, settlements re-emerging from burrows dug beneath drifts. Villages that still needed grain, and villages where grain was ample enough that carts might be spared southward. Each messenger brought hope braided with exhaustion. Robb divided his days between the solar, where he mapped road repairs and drafted charters for river trade, and the practice yard, where he drilled with gray wind limping behind. Jon took charge of rehabilitating the survivors from Castle Black, turning them loose in teams to fell deadwood and burn whatever nests of gray rot they found. Stannis paced Winterfell's ancient corridors like a restless shade, speaking little save to Maester Luwin's successor about pitch, iron, and shipwright timetables. No lordling could mistake his intent. When the thaw unclasped the white knife, the Blueburn fleet would sail north to Hardhome, dragging every firepot and dragonglass bolt King Tommen's treasury could spare. Melisandre drifted through it all with eyes half-hooded, murmuring of dawns beyond dawn. Sometimes she would halt in the Godswood beside the heart tree as Bran kept vigil, and her lips would move in silent argument that never reached the ears of ordinary souls. Jaime suspected her fire saw different freedoms than Bran's roots. Whatever tension simmered stayed beneath the bark. On the 8th morning after the dragon's fall, ravens beat down from the south bearing Tywin Lannister's crimson seal, though Jaime recognized the hand as his Uncle Kevin's. Tommen had formally accepted the new Northern Charter, reappointing Robb Warden and, more surprisingly, naming Jon Snow Shield King in the Night's Watch's stead. The parchment offered scrawled signatures of Tyrell envoys, Dorne's Prince Quentyn, even a looping signature from the Ironborn Regent Roderick the Reader. Conspicuously absent was Cersei. The letter did not mention her, and Jaime read the omission like a bloodstain hidden beneath polished armor. Later that day, Robb gathered his closest circle in the Solar. Jon, Sansa, Blackfish, Stannis, and, unexpectedly, Bran wheeled in with Mira's steady hands. Jaime and Brienne, standing near the hearth, traded a glance. Jon placed wax tablets on the oaken table. Reports say the Night King's forces have pulled back beyond the Shivering Sea, but scattered pockets remain. Hardhome claims smoke on the horizon, burning longships maybe, or something fouler. We must finish what winter started. Stannis's lips pressed thin. Hardhome is a charnel pit even in clement climates. Sail now or lose the chance forever. Robb drummed fingers. Sail you shall, Lord Stannis. But Winterfell can spare only a third of her strength. We bleed if we split further. Grey Wind's ears twitched. Bran cleared his throat. Send me, he said, the youth in his voice at odds with the gauzy white of his gaze. Sansa half rose. Bran continued, calm. The ravens answer me more readily beyond the sea. They remember old perches there. Bran, you can barely cross a courtyard without help, Robb protested.
Mira met Robb ster.
I will be his legs. Jon tapped map parchment. I'll command the ranging. Castle Black's rebuild will stand without me a month. We take Stannis' fleet. Bran guides. Mira and I guard him. Stannis eyed them as though weighing tree sap. I need your sword's renown, Snow. Very well. Blackfish pointed with carved antler knife. And the twins? Fry malcontents still idle inside, waiting for lion gold to spark their courage. Jaime knows them. Robb's glance flicked to Jaime. Will you lead terms? Jaime leaned to the firelight, heat gilding his cheeks. They won't trust the Kingslayer in a wolf's tabard. But Ser Brienne carries oath enough for any man with sense. Brienne stiffened. I'd rather face 3 drakes than Walder's brood. Sometimes infection must be cut clean, Jaime murmured. Robb folded arms. Go then, both of you. Take 10 outriders each, no more. If they bend the knee, we supply them for spring. If they refuse, he left the rest unsaid. No one doubted the Riverlands' new discipline. That night Jaime found Brienne sharpening Oathkeeper beneath a sputtering torch outside the old September snow puddled in melted hollows around her boots. Sparks danced as whetstone hissed. Fry lands lie weeks by horse if the melt bogs the green fork, he said. She kept her eyes on the blade. And if the bridge lords remember every slight. Remember, he echoed. Memory's a blade duller than most think. He crouched, touched the swords fuller. I'd ride Hobbs over ice pits if it meant no more blue-eyed corpses. She straightened, wiping steel with oiled rag. Then pack light. They left Winterfell at dawn. Brienne, Jaime, 10 Riverlander outriders under Ser Glenn Carroway, a satchel of Robb's sealed letters, and a small cask of the Wall's black fire, an insurance gift from Melisandre that Jaime prayed he would never unstop. Snow still barred the usual north-south passes, so they cut west, shadowing the fringes of Wolfswood until the land sloped into the tangled margins of the neck. There the world seemed half water, half sedge. Thin sheets of ice still floated atop brackish pools, creaking when horses splashed through. A few marsh men guided them across causeways only reeds remembered, their flat-bottomed punts gliding soundless. Nights they slept in wattle huts perched on poles, listening to distant loons cry across black water. Jaime dreamed of towers tumbling into bogs, their stones slimy with something older than memory. 8 days in, a clear dawn lit the ruins of Moat Cailin. Summer's first breath rolled mist from broken walls, revealing spiders of new creepers clawing up basalt.
No banners flew.
The Ironborn who had once held the fort lay moldering in shallow graves, markers snapped by frost. Brienne dismounted by a toppled tower and traced her fingers over a rusted shield fossilized in mud, its kraken sigil worn to knotted vines. Wars upon wars, she whispered. Jaime leaned beside her. Stones breathe easier than men. He watched Carroway's scouts signal the all-clear. No ambush, no hidden arrow slits. The path south lay open. They pressed beyond the neck into the muddy fringes of the Trident, where willows dipped bony fingers into wine-brown currents. Here the sky widened, and spots of green dared the thaw. Shepherds drove lean flocks along dikes. Small folk already patched thatch blown by winter gales. At village lanes, folk stared, some in guarded hope, others with the suspicion hard winters forge. A girl in a ragged cloak offered Brienne a posy of early snowdrops. Brienne paid with a copper groat. Jaime noted how eyes followed the shining sword at her hip, yet no one named her maid or mocked her stride now. Winter had pared lesser words away. When they reached the western bank of the Tumblestone, crows circling overhead warned of carrion. A mile on, they found its source. A cart smashed in the spill of a hillside road, 3 bodies spread like discarded toys. Fry colors on faded patches of cloak told enough. No coin remained in their purses. The driver's throat was cut clean, the mercenaries torn ragged. Brienne knelt by one corpse, pressed fingers into the wound edges. Southron blade, she judged. Not a brigand's cleaver. Too neat. Message, Jaime said. Either for us, or for any Fry daring trade. He scanned the slopes for glints of steel. Troll shadows pooled under thorn hedges. No living watcher showed. They buried the dead and burned the cart. That night Jaime kept first watch, perched on a ridge where moonlight limned the silent river. He considered what Cersei would make of messages carved in corpses. Once she had sent more than a few herself. He thought about the path she might now walk. Desperation? Vengeance? Then he dismissed the speculation. People changed or they did not. The wind blew either way. 2 days later they rode into the twins' shadow. The towers still loomed austere above muddy waters, but where once Walder Frey's banners snapped proud from parapets, now only one tattered cloth hung at half-staff, faded to the color of old bone. The drawbridge sagged. A lone sentry in shabby plate hailed them with uncertain voice. Glenn Carroway answered, presenting Robb's sealed letter. After a tense exchange, chains rattled and the drawbridge lowered enough for a single rider. Brienne spurred forward, Jaime beside her before anyone argued. Hooves clomped on damp planks, echoing in the hollow throat of the gatehouse. Inside the courtyard they saw hunger painted on faces of men-at-arms who clutched spears as though the wood might splinter any second. Ryman Fry, gaunt, cheeks sunken, met them beneath an arch. His doublet, once trim, hung loose, sleeves patched with mismatched dyes. He forced a curt bow.
Sir Jaime.
Lady Knight. His eyes flicked to Oathkeeper with that same weary hunger. Brienne dismounted wordlessly. Jaime produced Robb's charter. Lord Stark offers mercy. The bridge will be maintained, tolls halved, grain supplied when harvest comes. In return, Fry sons will foster in Riverrun as wards, and the twins will pledge swords against any southern force marching without wolf leave. Ryman's mouth twisted. Mercy, he spat sidewise. My father rots under stones for giving Stark trust. The north repays with crows pecking our fields, lions in our halls. Brienne's voice cut like cold water. Your father rotted because he broke all guest right. Guest right. Ryman's laugh turned cough. And what of lions who slaughter kin? Kings who burn the city they swear to guard? Jaime held his gaze. The realm has no shortage of sin. Today you decide the next page. He handed the charter. Ryman's gnarled hands tightened around the parchment. Quick eyes darted to the walls where his own archers watched. Jaime followed the glance. He counted fewer than a score, gamely armed but slack. Winter's siege had pruned Fry's strength to a bare skeleton. Silence stretched. Brienne didn't shift. Finally Ryman's shoulders drooped like a sack of spoilt grain. He called a servant, ordered ink, affixed his trembling seal. Mercy then, he muttered. Better than graves. Jaime inclined head. Stark grain arrives before midsummer. Pray midsummer comes, Ryman murmured. They stayed one night in cold guest rooms where stone walls murmured of old blood. Jaime slept little, listening for betrayal knives. None came. At sunrise, Brienne found him on parapet overlooking the water. Walls hold, she observed. For now, he answered. They left without breakfast. 2 leagues south, a messenger caught them. Letter from Ryman pledged to gather all Fry banners for Robb's muster against bandits. Jaime exhaled relief that felt more precarious than victory. Threads, knots, bridges, he murmured, recalling Bran's riddle. Their journey home cut through the fields of the river valley, where hints of green rolled like shy laughter. One afternoon, in an abandoned hamlet ringed by blossoming crabapple trees, Brienne discovered a ruined sept whose stained glass remained miraculously intact. A mother cradling a child half-crushed by fissured arch shafts of alien color poured across shattered pews, dust glittering within. They set a cook fire on the cracked altar stone. Jaime fried salt pork while Brienne mended girth straps. Evening's golden hush settled. He asked, unexpectedly, if summer lasts, what will you do? She tied a final knot. Perhaps guard Sansa to King's Landing if she goes. Or serve the Winter Guard. Serve, he echoed. Never just live. She lifted Oathkeeper, studying reflected flame. A knight lives in service. And when swords rust? She met his eyes, something softening. I'll plant cabbages and teach children how to laugh at fear. He smiled. I would guard those cabbages. Wind nudged cherry blossoms through the broken roof. some caught in her hair. She laughed, brushing petals. The sound stirred warmth in him deeper than any hearth. 3 days beyond the ruined sept, they reached the outskirts of Winterfell at dusk. Smoke rose from repaired chimneys, carrying scents of rosemary and lamb. A boy atop the outer watchtower spotted Oathkeeper's gleam and rang a bright bell. By the time they cantered through the gate, Sansa waited, cloak white as snowfall, arms open. Brienne dismounted stiffly, presenting the signed charter. Sansa kissed her cheek, whispered, "Thank you." She turned to Jaime with equal sincerity. The phrase bow, what did it cost? Only the price of letting go, he said. Supper that evening crowded every bench. News of twins' submission rippled like spilled mead. Minstrels struck chords of half-remembered river songs. Small folk attempted reels despite lingering limps. Jon still absent, gone with Stannis and Bran, but letters had come, Hardhome reached, undead remnants routed, wildling kin ferried south for land grants. Bran's visions guided the fleet through ice floes as though seabirds whispered under his oars. After feast wound down, Jaime climbed to the battlements. Moon rode high, casting silver across courtyard where children chased each other with sticks for swords. Sansa's laugh rose among them, light. He rested forearms on stone just as Brienne joined him, cheeks flushed from dancing. "Grey wind chases rabbits in the Godswood," she told him. "Even dire wolves need lighter meals," he said. She leaned beside. "There's talk Robb will send envoys to Casterly Rock. He wants trade lines reopened. Iron for timber, gold for grain. Tywin will weigh coin heavier than grudges," Jaime said, though doubt flitted across his thoughts. But the Rock was Kevan's stewardship now, and Kevan at least had always prized realm above pride. Below, fireflies winked over new grass. The old world's ashes cradled new shoot. He spoke quietly. "When Bran named me doorkeeper in his vision, I feared he meant I'd hold winter forever. Now I think maybe the door swings both ways." She touched his scarred hand. "Then keep it open. Let spring walk through." Soft as breath, he turned his palm upward, her calloused fingers sliding into his. They watched courtyards glow, children laughing where once only ravens perched. Stars pressed close, listening. Somewhere far north, beyond the shivering sea's rime-crusted rim, an ancient magic might still stir, but for now Westeros exhaled. Bridges held, stories mended, and 2 knights forged in winter stood sentinel, guardian of doors, keeper of light, while the silence of a better world unfurled beneath the tender, tentative wings of spring.